like to call this Tampa City. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. At this time, may I have roll call, please?
Carlson. Hurtak.
Here.
Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda. Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All right, Councilman Beer is on his way. He's just stuck in a little bit of traffic, but he will be here momentarily. At this time, LaShawn Dock, Miss LaShawn Dock, if you would please help us go over to the agenda for any housekeeping.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening. I'm Chairman and Council LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. And on tonight's agenda, just to clear a couple of items. On item number 1, there's a request from the applicant to continue this item to January 18th, 2024.
All right. Do we
And-
have anybody in the public that would, well, first, let me get a motion to open all public hearings. Motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilwoman Henderson, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry, Miranda. Remember when they called,
Miranda.
one time, a couple months ago, somebody else said Councilmember Veranda.
No.
And mix them together. So we have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilwoman Henderson, all in favor? Aye. Is there anybody that's here that is going to be speaking on item number 1, just the continuance? This will not be heard tonight. This is to be continued. All right, we don't have anybody registered. At this time, may I have a motion to continue this item? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin, and do we have a date?
January.
When was it, the date?
January 18th, 2024. And for the record, this is file number Tcc 22-28.
All right, and that'll be at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602 at 5:01 p.m., 315. Yep. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And please silence your cell phones. Yes, ma'am. What's next?
Okay, next we have item number 4. There's a request from the applicant to continue this item to December 14th, 2023.
All right. Do you have any
This would also need to include, I'm sorry, a 180-day waiver to the time frame.
Do we have the applicant present for
Should
item
be
number
present.
4?
They were advised to attend.
Okay.
So moved.
Wait. Yes?
The basis for the 180-day waiver by council is,
This is the time frame for processing. When they continue to December 14th, it will put them beyond the 180 days.
and do you know why it cannot be heard tonight?
Well, this is the first request for the continuance, and the applicant is actually redesigning their site. They're making some changes to their site, and it will require another review by the ERC staff.
Understood, thank you.
All right,
Thank
do
you.
we have anybody here present that wishes to speak on the continuance only of item number 4? I see no one, and we don't have anybody registered. May I have a motion to continue? Motion to continue from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. This is with the waiver of the 180 days, and it will be continued to December 14th, 2023 at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes?
Time,
At 5:01 p.m.
thank you.
Almost had it. All right, that's done. Yes, ma'am, what's next?
The next item is item number 10. There's a request from the applicant to continue this item. It is stated on December 14th, but the request is to continue to January 18th, 2024.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on the continuance only of item number 10? The continuance only. I see no one, and there's nobody registered. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Continue file number RAC 2392
All right.
to January.
Start acting.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin to continue REZ 23-92 to January 18th, 2023 at 5:01 p.m. here at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602 on the 3rd floor. Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And number 11, we have a missed notice, so you need a motion to remove from the
To remove
agenda.
this item, please, yes.
We have a motion to remove item number 11 due to a missed notice from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anything else?
That's it, so we're ready to start.
All right,
When
at
you
this
are.
time, we're gonna ask the clerk to swear everybody that is going to be speaking on any case on the agenda to please stand, raise your right hand, and we will swear you in because these are quasi judicial.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, item number 2.
Yes, so,
Wait, yes, ma'am. Yes,
I am, this is the third time we're hearing this and the third time I'm recusing myself. And Mr. Shelby's computer isn't working right now, but I will have the document by the end of the evening. But I am recusing myself to remove any appearance of bias. And so I guess I'll ask for everyone to accept that later, so.
All right, thank you very much. Enjoy. Yes, ma'am.
thank you, Chairman and Council. LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. Item number 2 is REZ 22108. This is for the property located at 2309 South Cameron Avenue. The applicant is represented by Steve Michelini. The request is to rezone the property from RS50 residential, RS75 residential single family to PD plan development to allow for development of 2 single family detached structures. And I'll turn it over to Planning Commission to give their report, and I'll come back and give my report.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Mr. Collins, go ahead, sir.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, I've been sworn in. Our first case is in the South Tampa Planning District, specifically the Palmacia West neighborhood. The site is within the coastal planning area, specifically Evacuation Zone B. Here is the subject site outlined in this purple color. It's just, it's located northwest of West San Carlos Street and South Cameron Avenue. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character. Within a quarter mile northwest of the site is Henderson Boulevard, which contains mostly non-residential uses. Here is the adopted future land use map. As you can see, the subject site shown in this yellow color and the surrounding properties are designated residential 6. That category allows residential development up to 6 dwelling units per acre. As you move northwest towards Henderson Avenue is land recognized under the CMU 35 designation, which encourages a mixed-use development pattern. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found the rezoning consistent with a number of policies in the comprehensive plan. The request would allow for 2 single-family detached residential units at an overall density of 5.71 units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 6 plan category, and also comparative to the density of the surrounding area. The request is consistent with the city planning strategy, specifically Land Use Policy 2.1.2, which seeks to use land resources more efficiently by encouraging infill development on underutilized sites. The request is consistent with the plan's housing policies by ensuring an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. Finally, the request is consistent with Land Use Policy 9.5.3, which seeks to provide different intensities in single-family areas to reflect the character of single-family areas across the city. The request will maintain the stability of the existing area while expanding opportunities for housing choices. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again, Council. LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. And again, this is REZ 22108. The applicant is requesting this PD plan development. It is proposing to create 2 lots. So there's 1 lot which exists now with a single-family home. The proposal is to split the lot and to develop another single-family detached home. Each lot would measure 55 feet in width and 139 feet in depth, with a total lot area of approximately 7,645 square feet for each lot. These lots are lots 8 and 9. They are part of Block 24, Highland Terrace subdivision, which was platted in 1987. The site plan submitted identifies the existing 1-story single-family home, which is a frontage on Cameron Avenue and vehicular access in the south on San Carlos. The proposed new structure would contain 2,292 square feet at a maximum building height of 35 feet. And the setbacks have been provided within the staff report on page 2, but for the proposed dwelling, the setbacks are proposed to the north at 6 feet, to the south at 8 feet, to the west 20 feet, and east 25 feet. And the existing dwelling would have a setback of 3 feet to the north, 10 feet to the south, 20 feet to the west, and 23 feet to the east. And I'd like to show you our conforming map for this area. So whenever a lot is split and the lot width of the 2 lots created is smaller than the minimum width allowed in that zoning district, we create the conforming map. And so that map was created, and this analysis has been provided for you on page 4 of the staff report. So I'm going to read through this, and if we have the analysis map up while I go through this analysis, that would be great. This is the property, which is identified here, outlined in the black, and has the hatching. Just to orient you, this is West San Miguel. This is South Cameron. This is San Carlos Street. Further west, this is Henderson. So the area of analysis includes 212 total zoning lots. 150, or 70% of those lots, have been developed with a width of 75 feet or greater, and 62, or 30%, have been developed with a width of 74.99 or less. Pursuant to the request to reestablish the platted lots of 55 by 139, a total of 9 lots, or 4%, have been developed with a width of 54.99 feet or less, and a total of 11 lots, or 5%, have been developed with a width of 55 feet to 59.99 feet. In relation to reviewing the existing development pattern, the subject block from San Miguel Street to West San Carlos Street contains 7 total zoning lots. This includes the subject site. 4, or 57%, of those lots have been developed with a width of 75 feet or greater, and 3, or 43%, of those lots have been developed with a width of 74.99 feet or less. On the subject block face, west side of South Cameron Avenue, there are 3 zoning lots, including the subject site. 100% of those lots are developed with a width of 75 feet or more. Pursuant to the analysis provided, the majority of the lots within the study area have been developed with a lot width of 75 feet or more. In analyzing the subject block, and specifically the block face, all 3 lots are developed at a lot width of 80 feet or more, with 2 lots developed at a width of 80 feet to 99.99 feet, and 1 lot, which is the subject site, developed at a width greater than 100 feet. Therefore, staff finds the reestablishment of the platted lots to be inconsistent with the existing development pattern of the block face and the block. In addition, this PD site plan request is inconsistent with the overall area within this analysis. The proposed lot split is out of character with the surrounding area and is not compatible with the built environment. And just to show you, also just to mention, as you can see on this conforming map, also what we have are the zoning layers that are listed, and I'll show you the zoning map shortly. To the east, we had a rezoning that came through recently. That is a PD rezoning. That was also for a lot split. Staff did an analysis on that report and had a finding. One thing we looked at during that actual case was when you look at the overall area, the lot widths, but also that when you're looking at the area of analysis, the blocks which are more centrally located are unique. And each block has a certain number of smaller lot widths that are less than 50 feet. So at the last rezoning, which recently came through for this PD, that was the analysis which was specific to this block. So the analysis I provided is for the block which is under the current request, and it includes also an overall analysis of the area. This is the site plan provided by the applicant. So this is the site, and this is the property boundary which is outlined. This is Cameron Avenue. This is San Carlos. So this is the existing structure on the site, and the vehicle access is here on the south, and the new line will be proposed here. So the proposal is to split the lot and develop a new home here. And vehicular access would be here on Cameron from the east. So I have elevations to show you of the new home proposed. This will be the east elevation. This is the north elevation. So you can see the two-story structure proposed. And this is the south and the west elevations. And because the existing home on the site, because that home is an existing home and that is proposed to remain, site photos have been provided, so I'll show you these provided with the packet, and then I have additional photos to show. So this is the east elevation of the existing home. This is the south elevation. The bottom right, this is the west elevation. And then this is the north elevation. And then we have photos of the site. Let me show the zoning map quickly also. So this is the zoning map showing the surrounding area. So this is the site which is outlined here in red. This is Cameron Avenue. This is San Carlos. This is Henderson Boulevard further west, just to orient you on this map. So you can see that the zoning surrounding the site is RS 75. And then as you head further south, you get into your RS 100 zoning, residential single family. And then I have pictures of the site. So that's the front orientation of the existing home. This is the site. On the south, this is another view. South end of the site. This is the south end of the site, but this is also giving you a view when you're looking west on San Carlos. This is the north end of the site, so this is the vacant part of the site, and this is where that proposed new structure would be placed. This is if you're looking north, so the site is actually in this picture to my left. This is on the southwest corner, southwest of the site. This is if you're looking west on San Carlos. This is another view that's to the west of the site. This is across from the site, which may look a little bit different today. This is east of the site. North of the site, this is directly next to the existing site, and this is further north. The second lot to the north of this site. So the development coordination analysis and finding has been provided, but the DRC staff reviewed the request, finds the request inconsistent, and there are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Nope.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applicant?
Good evening, Council. Steve Michelini. Yes, I've been sworn and I'm representing the property owner, Martha Young. Let's start with a couple of things that I think that need to be addressed. And one is that a different property directly across the street was used and was found to be consistent by the city staff. The only problem was that when it came to our petition, again, directly across the street, they used different criteria to evaluate that and found our petition to be inconsistent. This provides the opportunity to restore an original plat that was established, and it restores also the ability for a homeowner to retain their existing home and to establish the ability to develop one additional lot, and that lot would be developed separately and would enable this person to remain in their home. It exceeds the existing zoning square footage that's required, which is 7,645, and the zoning code requires it to be 7,500 square feet. The frontage is the issue which it does not meet, and that's why we're requesting the PD. The land use allows for this to be considered. No waivers are being requested, which I know is a very specific touching point for city council. That when you ask for a PD and you're trying to avoid different setbacks and different waivers, but however, this request is going to meet all of those city requirements, so no waivers. The lots were purchased separately. They were purchased in and I'll put the deeds up. The lots were purchased in 1970 and 1971, and there was never an intent by this property owner to have those lots combined. They were always designed to be an annuity for them for the future and for their retirement. So I will put those deeds up. This is the first deed. And I'll focus on the date. You can see there, it's 17th of July, 1970.
I was 6.
I'm sorry?
I was 6 years old.
I was
The
negative-
second,
negative 14.
the second lot was bought in February of 1971. And I'm gonna read just a couple of excerpts here for you from the zoning report from the 4111 San Carlos. Pursuant to the above analysis, this is from the staff report that was written for that rezoning. We find it to be consistent with RS 75 zoning district. However, in the analysis, the subject block, and specifically the block face, the 3 lots on the north side of the property measure 55 by 139, and 55 by 139, and 57 by 86, and by 139. Respectively, each of these lots were developed with a single-family residence, and the lot area of 7,500 square feet is met. Therefore, the staff finds a reestablishment of the pattern of lots for the remainder of the block face to be consistent with the existing development pattern. Now, when you go to the current staff report, you have exactly the opposite finding. And I don't think that that was a fair analysis to be conducted using the properties that are immediately adjacent to each other, and to find one consistent and one inconsistent. With respect to meeting the code, it's designed to promote the efficient and sustainable use of land and the infrastructure. This proposal does that. It retains one existing single-family house, and it proposes to add one additional single-family house. The staff has found this to be not consistent with the area development of the patterns within the area. And I can show you on the map that in this specific area, the properties in the immediate vicinity, there are a number of 55-foot wide lots. Allow the integration of different land uses and densities into one development that would otherwise not be provided. And this is a requesting of relief from an RS 75 zoning. Again, the 2 lots were combined without the owner's permission or knowledge. They suddenly were asked to pay one tax bill instead of 2, and up until 1987, they paid with 2 different tax bills. Allow the integration, uses, and densities that promote, and the applicant has requested 2 lots to construct the residential families, and the newly created lots measure 55 feet, which is the original plat. Encourage flexible development, which reduces transportation needs. As I said, the owner intends to remain in the one house and then sell off the other property and use that to pay for their long-term care, including medical expenses. Promote and encourage the development where appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding impacted area. This is compatible. I will show you on those lots on the blue and red map that in the immediate vicinity, and not within, I'm talking about not within the extended area, but within the immediate vicinity, there are a number of 55-foot lots. The area in the analysis includes a number of 212, as I said. A total of 9 lots in the immediate vicinity have 55 feet or less. promote more desirable living and working conditions, the applicant proposes to split those lots and allow for the development of another lot and promote the architectural features which is consistent with the other properties and promote the retention and reuse of existing buildings. And they're going to do that. I draw your attention to the staff report. And this is the subject property. I'm sorry, this is the subject property here. This property was rezoned. Can you see that? Do I need to zoom it out? This is the subject property. This is the property that was rezoned and lot splits were approved. These three properties, these two properties, and you see the other blues in the immediate vicinity, and that should be the criteria that these are evaluated against, not the greater area way out in the extremes here. These are the people that are most impacted by the development that's being proposed. The family will present you with the letters of support. This is the subject property, and there's 22 letters of support. 20 of those are within the notice area and in the immediate vicinity. As I said, the lot was intended for the retirement purposes all along when she originally purchased it. And I would say that our review criteria should be the same as what was used directly across the street. The Planning Commission has found this to be consistent with the RS6 land use classification. It meets the efficient use of the land. It keeps the hands in the existing development in the hands of the owner. And we retain the existing home for that purpose. We did reach out to the homeowner association. We offered a variety of different solutions, and the answer was that they did not want to entertain those solutions. So anyway, Martha. This is the property owner, Martha Young, and she'd like to address the council.
Oh, no, I'll read my friend. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, City Council. As you know, we're talking about REZ 22-108 for 2309 South Cameron. My name is Rachel Vizcaíno, and here's my mother. I'm representing her because she's been very overwhelmed with all this experience, so I'm here to help her out. As Stephen mentioned earlier, my mother purchased 2309 South Cameron, Lot 9 in July 1970, and then the lot next door, Lot 8 in 1971 in February. I would like to begin with asking this council to please listen to this objectively as much as you can, because I know there's been a lot of contention or a lot of issues with this request, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. This approval is life-changing. I can't stress that enough. It really, really means a lot to her because, again, this is something that she's been holding on for so many years. And just to be told she can't do it. And that's what's so heartbreaking about this. We're hoping that we can change that false narrative and know that she's not trying to do any harm to the neighborhood. And that's just further from the truth. The lots were combined without her knowledge, and she's just trying to uncombine them. That's all we're doing. Pomacia is a very large neighborhood. And imagine here, 83 years old, actually it was 26 signatures that she was able to receive in the vicinity of her neighborhood. We're not talking Carrollwood or West Tampa. We're talking 2 to 3 blocks right around her neighborhood because they know her and they understand what she's trying to do. So that's where we're at here. Tonight, we were just talking about tonight. This might be our last Christmas and Thanksgiving in this home. She's been here 53 years. I've been there 50 because I was born into this home. So imagine giving rid of that. I mean, the fact that I would God forbid she's gone, I would like to make sure that at least that home is still there, because that's as close as I can be to her, is that home still existing, and that's what the intention is for her to stay there. And I don't know if anybody understands this or not, but relocating someone at the age of 83, especially when they don't want to move at that age, my biggest fear, my sister and I's biggest fear, is that it's going to create such a depression relocating her, not even knowing where, because in South Tampa, she's never going to be able to afford to move back into South Tampa after she sells the entire lot, if she has to be forced to do that. I'm just worried about her mental health, because that's something that this whole year, it's been very traumatic for her, because she's been so concerned, worried about the unknown, not knowing if she can stay and remain in her home. I just really would like you to consider all those things about the fact that she's been a lifelong resident in that neighborhood for so long, and that she's just asking for you to please be understanding of that request and for her to stay in this home. Anything else? Did you want to? No, did you want her to say after? Steve, does she want to say anything after?
Whatever she likes to say.
Okay, go ahead.
You have 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
Please state your name. Say your name, please.
Martha Young, and I was sworn in. My name is Martha Young, owner of the property located at 2309 South Cameron Avenue in question today. In 1970, I purchased the house that sits on Lot 9. 6 months later, I was offered the lot next door, which was Lot 9, which was Lot 8 at the time. I purchased Lot 8 as an investment, which was a buildable lot. I went to the tax collector's office to pay for Lot 8 and 9. As I was writing 2 checks for each lot, the clerk said, "Why are you writing 2 checks?" Without realizing, the clerk told me that she would fix it for me for the following year, so I would only have to write 1 check. I was under the impression that I was not under the impression that I was combining lots. Being done on my taxes, it still shows lots 8 and 9. For all these years, I have felt secure that my investment was safe. It was like a retirement plan for when I would need it. Do you have any idea what it's like to be told that your investment that you were counting on is no longer available after 53 years? I'm 83 years old, and I do have some health problems. I can no longer maintain both properties like I did in the past. I feel like having Lot 9, only Lot 9, I would be able to maintain it a lot easier. I have always been a good neighbor. I've never interfered with any changes or improvements in or around my neighborhood. All around me, I see houses being torn down, trees removed, the houses being replaced are very large and takes up the whole lot as well. This is not our goal that we want to maintain. That is not our goal. We want to maintain my home and the history of our family members we have built over 53 years. Can I continue?
Yes, ma'am, you have 30 seconds.
I feel like to sell this Lot 8. It will help me in the future with my own medical and health care assistance if needed, or some unknown expenses. I would deeply appreciate your consideration and your understanding of my situation. It would bring me a financial relief. I'm not physically or mentally able to go into stress and relocating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the initial presentation. Any questions or comments from council members? All right, do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 2? Please come up. Yes, sir?
I have 2 minutes.
You have a speaker waiver form for 2 additional minutes. Mr. Shelby, if you'd like to read off the names.
Mr. Nan, did I pronounce that correctly? Could you raise your hand, please? Is that McMahon?
McNabb or?
No, I see Jim. Jim 2306? That's you, okay. Alfred Farias? Faria, thank you very much. Okay, that's a total of 5 minutes, please.
Yes, sir, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, please state your name.
My name is Michael McNabb. I'm a 49-year resident and property owner in Palmacia West, since 1975, and I know the Youngs. I reside 150 feet from the Cameron property. I'm an affected landowner and a person of standing entitled to the zoning protections afforded via the Tampa Land Development Regulations, the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and the Florida statutes. I'm a member of FAN, and I'm currently the president of Palmacia West Neighborhood Association, and I'm speaking for the board of directors that are not in favor of this PD. We are a neighborhood of about 600 single-family homes on medium to large lots, an area with increasing land values and new construction. We want to preserve the RS 75 zoning that the city established in 1987. Non-conforming lot splitting is not in keeping with the character or preservation of Palmacia West, and we are opposed to this PD. We've had lots of neighbors appear at this hearing, which was continued from April to June to July and now November. And I don't know, we had 20, 30, maybe 40 people here at those hearings opposed to this. I didn't ask all those people to come back tonight because there's a lightning game and you've got a long agenda, but no one has called me and said they were in favor of this project. Everyone I've talked to by phone or in person is not in favor of this. And I want to object to the letters of support. We have no way to verify those letters to see if they're what they are. We haven't seen those, so I hope that you would not consider that any more than we've given you letters against. I didn't ask a lot of people to come tonight because this should be an easy decision for the council. The city staff report says, and I'm going to quote, "The proposed lot split is out of character with the surrounding area and is not compatible with the built environment." I want to repeat that. The proposed lot split is out of character with the surrounding area and is not compatible with the built environment. We agree with the city on that. It's not. I've been contacted by neighbors, and there is complete opposition from what I can tell. I also wanted to show you on this drawing that I put up here. Let's see. This is the property in question today that belongs to the Youngs. It's true that this property was approved for a lot split, and you remember we had lots of people here, 4 or 6 hearings on this, lots of opposition. I'm sure you remember that. And in any case, the council voted to approve the split for the one over here. I've asked land use experts about this. They are clueless as to why that was allowed. But in any case, it doesn't really matter. The property down here, which Mr. Michelini forgot to tell you, that also was a subject of a land split years ago. And the council here voted no on this property to split it. It's actually bigger than this property by like 11 feet. That was a no. This was a yes. This should be a no. And Councilman Miranda voted no on this property down here, and the city recommended no in their report. So we got a yes and we got a no on those. There's nothing unique or special about this property. There's no land use hardship here, or if there is, it's self-created. 50 and 55-foot parcels are the exception, as the city analysis shows. There's no reason to create 2 more non-conforming lots in violation of the existing RS 75 zoning. The 18 smaller lots that are scattered within that quarter-mile map were grandfathered in 1987 when this was combined into one lot. If the parcels split, there will only be 3 feet of side setback on lot 9, which is where the existing house is. It's my understanding that if a new house is built on the lot that there currently has a house on, the 3-foot setback would remain, and maybe the city can address that, but it's my understanding that there'll only be 3 feet between that and the property line on the existing house should it be torn down and rebuilt. And this is noted in the staff report on page 2. 3-foot setback is incompatible with our neighborhood. This plan requires that 13 trees be likely removed, including a 32-inch grand oak where the driveway is. I'm not going to go into this report from the tree canopy, but it does say that there's a 27.3% decrease in South Tampa tree canopy from 2016. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, and you must base your decision on competent and substantial evidence. The city report and testimony is such evidence in sympathy or the wishes of the property owner cannot be
very much,
considered
sir.
in your deliberations.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Tom Connolly, President of the Virginia Park Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to give council 10 handouts for you guys.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I am speaking on behalf of the Virginia Park Neighborhood Association in support of the Palmacia West. We agree with the analysis from the city staff on the 2711 requirement that it must be the historical precedent pattern of parcel configuration, not platted lots. It is mandated in 2711 that the parcel pattern is what is examined. And from 2743, the definition of parcel, a continuous area of land with its appurtenances, buildings, which because of its unity or use of commonality of ownership, may regard it as the smallest conveyable unit of real estate. If you looked at the analysis that was presented by LaShawn and her staff, you can see if you go out to the mandated 1,320 feet, that the overwhelming majority of the parcels are greater than the 75 foot. And that is what you have to consider. And you have to base your decision on 27-136 subs 1 through 6. Those are the only things you can rely on, and the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, section 9.3.8. And as the attorneys have always said at all of the previous hearings I've ever attended, each case stands on its own. You cannot refer back to previous decisions to try to bolster your position. And since that is a PD, it cannot even be considered, the one across from it, in the consideration of what the parcels are, because it is not of the same zoning configuration. With that in mind, we'd like to say that the historical precedent pattern of parcel configuration in the neighborhood does not support council approving this request for a subdivision. As the previous speaker stated, when the zoning conformance happened in 1987, the parcels that were less than the 75 feet were grandfathered in as they were, and it should not affect how the new zoning of RS 75 is applied. So City Council needs to vote no based on 27-136 sub 6 and the Tampa Comprehensive Plan of 9.3.8. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Next speaker, please state your name.
I'm Allison Date, and let me get my phone on here. 2403 West Chicago. And I'm here to request the protection of 2 live oaks at 2308 Cameron. Both a 21-inch and a 22-inch healthy live oak will be cut down if you approve splitting this lot and allowing the building of something that is out of character for this neighborhood's pattern of development. The 2 protected live oaks are right on the property line, so they should be safe. And it's understandable to remove a tree in the middle of a lot, but if Tampa doesn't have room for essential trees on the edge of a lot, then Tampa does not have room for trees. These trees are providing critical shade to 2 houses. 1 large house could be built on this lot without removing these 2 valuable trees. But if you let them split this lot, you are sacrificing those trees. According to the Tampa Tree Study, we need an even distribution of tree sizes. These medium-sized live oaks are extremely rare. And they are vital to the healthy urban canopy because they are our future. The people in this room will hopefully live to see them become grand trees. Natural Resources told the owner in December 22, almost a year ago, that they needed to add several things to the site plan. They did not do it. There's an X on the site plan to remove a tree, but you cannot tell which tree it is. The site plan does not show the required alternative construction methods, and the protective radius for all the preserved trees. And most importantly, the site does not show any protection for the grand tree. The current location of the driveway will impact its health. I know you can add these things between 1 and 2 readings, the first and the second reading, but they have had plenty of time to do this, and I'm concerned about voting on something that is incomplete and that may be altered. City staff found this inconsistent with the development pattern of the neighborhood. The owner could easily build something that is consistent with the neighborhood and save these healthy trees. Please vote no on this inconsistent lot split. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Please state your name.
Ms. Bennett has a speaker waiver form with 3 names. Thank you. Sandy Sanchez. Thank you. Michael Fanning. Thank you. And Larry Belcher. Thank you.
4.
And, I see, yes. Donna Van.
Name? Yes, I'm here.
4 and 3 make 7 minutes. Thank you.
7 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. I have been involved in more lot splits than I can count. This neighborhood, which borders my Virginia Park neighborhood, has by far the most lopsided statistics of any lot split I have ever seen. They are asking for 55-foot lots, but 91% of the parcels in this neighborhood have a 60-foot width or larger, 91%. It doesn't get any more slam dunk than that. Chapter 2711 is crystal clear that, quote, the actual development pattern in a radius of 1,320 feet must be reviewed. 1,320 feet is required by code. I'd like to also point out that the reason you don't see it extending down here is because this is RS 100, which is different than the zoning for this lot, which is RS 75. You cannot consider something that's zoned differently. Therefore, the PD that's on San Carlos, you cannot consider that because it's zoned as a PD. It's not zoned as RS 75. That's why these are cut off, because that's RS 100 down there. 2711 also states that there shall be no division of an existing lot that is inconsistent with existing precedent in a radius of 1,320 feet. Lots of record may not be reconfigured in conflict with the established pattern within 1,320 feet. This is why Ms. LaShawn Dock found this inconsistent and why she said in the staff report, the proposed creation of 2 lots, each 55 feet in width, has the potential to create adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed lot widths are not consistent with the surrounding development patterns. She also said, the proposed development is incompatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood. The majority of the lots have been developed with a lot width of 75 feet or more. In analyzing the subject block and block face, all lots are developed at a width of 80 feet or more. Therefore, staff finds the reestablishment of the platted lots to be inconsistent with the overall area within this analysis. The proposed lot split is, quote, out of character with the surrounding area and is not compatible with the built environment. This parcel is zoned RS 75. If this were a Euclidean zoning, they would have to skip down 2 whole zoning categories because they don't even meet the requirements of RS 60. They want 55-foot lots. They would have to go down to RS 50, but they aren't asking for Euclidean because they would need a waiver. And like most PDs, it does not meet. Stephanie, you have my other thing. And like most PDs, it does not meet the legal definition of a waiver. They need a waiver, and you guys have it in front of you, because the existing house would be only 3 feet from the property line. Someone could even build a 2-story addition on the existing footprint with a 3-foot setback. Remember, the rezoning runs with the land no matter who owns it. 2 large and healthy live oaks will be cut down to do this. 1 large house that fits with the character of the neighborhood could be built here, and those oaks would be saved. The classic definition of spot zoning is the process of singling out a single parcel of land for a use classification totally different from that of the surrounding area for the benefit of the owner of such property and to the detriment of other owners. The comp plan and the Tampa Muni Code are adamant about preserving the character of a neighborhood. It is in the citations I gave you. Mr. Michelini brought up the San Carlos lot split that was approved. At that hearing, Councilwoman Hurtak specifically asked if it could set a precedent. The city attorney told her no. So she was told it doesn't set a precedent, but Mr. Michelini is here citing it as a reason to approve this one. Some of you may remember what a complete debacle that rezoning was. It was so riddled with mistakes that at second reading, the legal department said it must start over with a new first reading. We ended up with 2 first readings and 2 second readings, and nobody knew which way was up. It barely passed on a 4-3 vote, and afterwards, some of you council members had buyer's remorse. And if we're going to discuss precedents, then we must include the attempted rezoning of 2401 Cameron, which is exact across the street from this one. Abby Feely found it inconsistent, and City Council, including Councilman Miranda, because it was 2010, voted no. The statistics are the same, and we urge you to vote no on this one. And if you're going to talk about transcripts of what was said in that meeting, the transcripts, Abby Feely said that the only lots in this 1,320-foot area that were smaller were grandfathered in, and the houses were built on them in the 1950s and the 1960s. She said no house had been built in that neighborhood after the early 1960s on a lot that was less than 60 or even 75 feet. In 2018, we had a case in Virginia Park that was very similar to this one. The elderly owner insisted she would live in one house and her daughter and son-in-law would live in the other to take care of her. All 3 of them were adamant, under oath, that they had no intention of selling. City Council approved it, and a few weeks after the ink was dry, the owners changed their minds, and this sign appeared in front of their house. I understand the emotional and heartrending statements of the owners, but even they themselves said this may be the last Christmas in that house. They may end up selling the original house before the next Christmas. But all that is to be put aside. Personal reasons are not competent and substantial evidence and cannot be considered by council. You must remember that the zoning goes with the land and people frequently change their minds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, please state your name.
My name is Lori McMahon, and I'm going to give you a whole bunch of personal reasons why I'm against the variance request. In this 2-block stretch of Cameron, there are a total of 9 households, of which over 50% of the residents have been in their respectful homes for over 30 years. Why have these residents been in the same home for 30 years? Because the quality of life in this 2-block stretch of Cameron is excellent. We enjoy our yards, home, and outdoor space. We can sit in our own backyard comfortably without hearing the neighbor's conversation next door. We have an enjoyable quality of life in our neighborhood. We don't have curbs. We do have potholes. We have aged sidewalks that are broken and bumpy from tree roots. And we have a street kids can play kick the can, baseball, basketball, foursquare, ride their bikes, and be safe. It is an enjoyable, relaxed street. We have tree canopies. We have space to park our cars without blocking someone else's driveway or parking in the neighbor's lawn. We walk our dogs without traffic. We don't have workmen parking in our yard because there's no place else for them to park. We mind our own business. If you approve this variance request, it will change everything, impacting the neighborhood negatively, degrading the quality of lifestyle for the neighborhood. An additional driveway plus an additional structure changes the entire flavor, feel, experience, style of the neighborhood. It is not about resisting change or limiting progress. It is not about wanting to live. It is about not wanting to live in a congested, condensed living space with people elbow to elbow. I don't want to go in my yard and hear the neighbor's conversation next door. I don't want to go in my yard and be required to whisper to have a private conversation. There are options available for condensed, congested living spaces. Go to downtown Tampa, Hyde Park, Seminole Heights. Let the majority live in the enjoyable, relaxed lifestyle they bought and paid for. I would be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Next speaker, please state your name.
My name is Pam Canella, 4012 San Rafael, and I oppose the rezoning. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan provides the goals, objectives, and policies to provide for the safety and quality of life for its neighborhoods and residents, promoting responsible growth and development. Planning development rezoning process is not intended to be used for the purpose of waiving or changing established land development regulations, but more for enforcing existing zones. This application is inconsistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Land Use Policy 9.3.8 pertaining to impact on neighborhoods as being minimally disruptive is inconsistent. Impacts on the neighborhoods and all neighborhoods are not minimal. The strain on our infrastructure is now being tested, as seen and experienced by all who live and work in South Tampa. There are roads that are blocked on our major roads and neighborhoods due to the collapsed water pipes, sewer pipes, drainage pipes, and potholes. If you haven't experienced months of unexpected disruption in your daily life, you need to understand the importance of quality of life. These roadblocks have caused unsafe traffic conditions. Their work vehicles, cranes, pipes, equipment make it difficult to see other cars and pedestrians. Then there's the impact on our children's education. This property is located in a school district that is overcrowded, and the reason for boundary changes. Our children's mental health and learning abilities are affected. There is impact on our green space, as you've heard. This lot for rezoning has many oak trees in danger of being cut down. Planting new ones will not provide the necessary needs the old mature trees provide, such as flood control because of the deep root system, provides oxygen, and much needed shade from the high temperatures and electric bills we've been experiencing. The current zoning, the lot size, trees, all serve a purpose to maintain balance necessary for safe and thriving neighborhoods. Transit is always a criteria constantly used by applicants to promote their development. Even though this property is in close proximity, we all know our bus system at this time is inadequate and should not be used and considered. Hardship is another tactic used by applicants for rezoning, but claiming an economic disadvantage due to the applicant's preference as to what he would like to do with this property is not sufficient to constitute a hardship entitling the owner. The rezoning to PD in a residential area is another tactic used by applicants to bypass our zoning laws and need to be reevaluated. Thank you.
Very much. Next speaker, please state your name.
Joanne McNabb, 2404 South Clark Avenue. I do live within the 250-foot area and was notified. You know, there was never any expression of concern from the owners when the city changed that zoning in 1987. We lived there too, and we were all notified by mail. The neighborhood had discussions about whether we were going to switch zoning or not, and we all agreed that the 75-foot was what we wanted. So it shouldn't have been a surprise at any point in time. We were notified by mail by the city. No one is asking Mrs. Young to move. She has always been proud of her home, her garden, and the trees on the empty lot, so no one's asking her to move. There's a 3-foot setback, which is totally unacceptable. I don't know anywhere that has a 3-foot side setback. It's not really relevant what happened on the lot across the street. That cannot be considered as precedent, as has already been stated, because legal has said what happens in one hearing cannot set precedent for another hearing. So please keep that in mind as well. In February, at the candidate forum at the Garden Club, those of you who were there all said you would support neighborhoods. This is the time to support Palmacia West in respecting our zoning requirements and our neighbors' property rights. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Please state your name.
Hi, and thank you for listening. My name is Cindy Farias. I live at 2402 South Cameron Avenue, which is directly cat-a-corner to Martha and Dave. And Martha and Dave, I apologize for speaking like this.
Wait, you have to address us.
They are very dear people. I love them, and they have been great neighbors. However, listening to everything I have tonight, there isn't really too much to add to that, except for the fact that I am directly affected by what happens, and the lot that has been spoken of tonight is directly across the street from me. In that lot that has been split now, there are going to be 2 homes over 5,500 square feet each. So I'm looking at that across the street from me, and now at the time that I came and spoke about that, there were about 21 people speaking against it. We have no idea why we weren't listened to at that time. I'm hoping that you're listening with your heart tonight. Now we're looking at that time. I said, once one is split, that lends to others being split, and this is exactly what I feel like is happening. And now I'm going to be looking at another home that wasn't there before that is going to affect our tranquil neighborhood. So, you know, South Tampa is plagued with flooding, and the more concrete, the more problems we have with that. Now we're talking about 2 oak trees that I didn't even know we were going to lose before tonight, and that devastates me because that's one of the beauties of our neighborhood. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you consider all of the people that live in this beautiful neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. I believe you will be the final speaker. Please state your name.
Probably so. Good evening, Stephanie Pointer. This is a nice lady back here, and she bought her property, but here's the thing, you have to remember that it's not, the financial situation of the property owner has nothing to do with competent substantial evidence. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I'd like to point out that I just sat back there at my laptop and looked it up. There's not one letter of support in Acela for this project, so somebody should show them to you if they actually exist. I'm going to tell you from personal experience, if the city gives you property, you have to fill out paperwork to adjoin those 2 properties. I've done it not once, but twice. They don't just magically become one. That must be done in writing. There has to be paperwork for them to become one. I promise you. I've done it twice. And both times the city gave me the properties, or gave the Civic Center the property. 3 inches or 3 feet from the property line. I'd like to point out that the air conditioner is also on that side. So your air conditioner guy cannot service the air conditioner. You can't even go around. 3 feet is not enough to turn on the water hose and drag it to the front of the house. 3 feet is not enough room to weed eat on the side of your house. It's not enough room to run a mower. So why are we talking about this? This nice lady wouldn't have a problem, but I have lived next to some crazy people, trust me. And you could not go on their property to do anything. And you guys have seen those kind of crazy people here. Okay? I've watched them.
Never.
And what was really interesting to me was the whole, the lady said something about in 1987 that these properties were all rezoned at that point in time. And that point in time, she could have said these are 2 separate properties, but she didn't. And I think we all remember another case in Ybor in 2000 that you can't come around later and say what you want to say. So I have some issues with that. The other thing nobody threw up here, and I thought this was interesting, this is their arborist report, and this says 8 feet from the fence. So this is, and the arborist report is actually incorrect because that's where the 3 foot is. And then on the very next page of this, so remember, this is not, we're not looking at the 8 foot line. Now these are for the 8 foot line. Look how much of these trees they're taking off. So basically they're killing the trees. They were gonna kill the trees at the 8 feet. And you guys know I'm not a tree hugger, but I have friends who are. And they made me print this out, so I thought I would go ahead and show them to you so I didn't kill trees for nothing. But I just wanted to point out that they're losing all these trees for what? I mean, these folks have already said that she may not even be there another year. I mean, I have an 83-year-old mother-in-law. My husband's in Kentucky with her right now. She's not in her house. What are we doing this for? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Are there any questions or comments from city council members before we go to rebuttal? There are not. Yes, sir, Mr. Michelini, you have 5 minutes for your rebuttal.
Council, we've heard a lot of things thrown around here about not compatible with the planning, temporary comprehensive plan. And you already heard from the planning commission that it is consistent. And I'll read again, goals and objectives, policies of the temporary comprehensive plan, city planning. Land use objective 2.1, 2.1.2, land use development regulations 8.14. Let me flip the page here. 8.141, overall residential development and redevelopment, objective 9.2, 9.2.1, 9.3, 9.3.8. Single-family areas, objective 9.5, policy 9.51, 9.53. Neighborhood and community plans, objective 1.3, 1.310. Adequate sites for accommodating housing needs, housing objective 1.3, 1.34. Infrastructure objective 1.1, infrastructure appointment 1.1.16, and the staff analysis, they came to the conclusion that it was compatible. You know, if you want to use precedent for your advantage, that knife cuts both ways. It doesn't just favor the opponents, it also favors the applicant. So when we're talking about compatibility, and again, I'll put this up. Subject property across the street, 55-foot lots, immediately adjacent to it in the rear, 55-foot lot. Over here, 55, over here, 3 55s, one more here, and the letters of support came from an area, I'll show you again. I gave you the letters. And the map showing where that support came from. Anyway, I'm going to read briefly from a letter that the homeowner association provided to us. And it says, I'm sure you remember the rigorous opposition of the lot split at 41-411 San Carlos last fall, which resulted in many hours of testimony, 4 hearings, and voted 4-3 to approve. The council decision was currently under review by a judge, and when it went to the judge, the writ of certiorari filed September 30th, 2022. The judge has not issued an order on this, and they lost that case. So this is, you know, this is a unique situation where you have an individual coming forward. It's not a developer coming to you and saying that I want a lot split and build 2 houses. You have an individual saying I want to retain my rights to live in the house, and I want to build an additional house and use that money to pay for my long-term care. I will also mention that we offered to provide a deed restriction, which is outside of the zoning process. They hired an attorney, drew up a deed restriction, we submitted it to them, and then they rejected it. So, I mean, for them to get up and say that there were no safeguards that were being proposed, that simply is not true. The 3-foot setback is on the interior side of the lot, and at the time when these properties were developed, 3 feet would have been the appropriate setback. It changed in '87 from 3 feet to 7 feet. So for them to say, oh, well, you know, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot that doesn't comply. At the time that these homes were built, it would have complied. As far as tree replacements are concerned, they still have to go through the Natural Resources Department. They have to provide the replacement trees. They have to meet all the criteria for that. And the reason that those lot lines shifted was to preserve trees, not to cut them down. This is a unique request. We're asking for you to consider that in this respect, as again, it's not someone coming in wanting to tear down 1 house and build 2. They want to retain the house and add additional lot. All the utilities must be upgraded, so the utility issues, I think that's another issue that they throw out there, but any project must comply with the utility department's criteria for those. And then throughout this issue about the school system, we just met with the superintendent, and he assured us that they're adding 1,800 new classroom seats in South Tampa. So, excuse me, I didn't laugh at anybody else when they were presenting. That's inappropriate.
I agree. He was
And
very
then, you know,
quiet and respectful the entire time. Thank you very much, sir. Councilmember Carlson, you have a question?
Mr. Regularly, just a quick question. Your client or you brought up the issue of the lack of notice or information to your client about the fact that this was switching from 2 lots to 1. Do you happen to have any documentation or sworn affidavits from any government agency that say, yes, we made a mistake in not notifying this particular?
I have to rely on the owner to tell you that. Come on.
This is where things get a little convoluted.
Mr. Shelby, the rebuttal time is up.
Responding to a question from council, if you could just say the name for the record.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is
ma'am.
Rachel Viscaino, mother of my mother's mother. Where's she? She's right here. Hi. This is where it gets a little convoluted, because we found this out a few years ago when my mother offered, at the time, I had a house in Seminole Heights, I was gonna sell and move in because my kids were want to go to plant. So I got a call from the builder, and they're saying, you know, your lots are combined. And we're like, there's no way. So I called her, and she called them, and the city of Tampa said that, yeah, they were combined. They didn't have any information on it either. The only thing that she recalls, and this is going back now to the 80s, it's been a while back, and if you want to tell the story or not, but she went in and, like she did every year with 2 tax bills, and said, here's 2 checks. Clerk behind the desk, according to her, says, why are you writing 2 checks? She's like, you know, I don't know. Here you go. And she had 2 of them out, 2 tax bills, 2 checks. She said, I will fix it for you next year, so you don't have to do this again. That was it. There was no signed letters, and that's what I couldn't understand. How in the world could a combination have happened without any sign, like a clerk? I didn't even know they had that ability or not, if they could sign a document or combine lots on a property owner just by a flip of a switch, is the way it sounds like to me. So the next year she gets her tax bill, still says lots 8 and 9. She didn't think anything of it, and here we are. And as far as notices, we didn't, one of the neighbors had mentioned something about a notice. We talked about this. She hadn't even realized it was, I think it came up, it was rezoned when the house on the adjacent side was, I think in 2012, wasn't it? That one was denied, but that's when we really kind of like found out about this RS-75 thing. And as far as, you know, paperwork and combined, it didn't happen that way. We don't have any proof, but it really didn't happen that way. We don't know. We think, she seems to think that they went in and they just fixed it for her, meaning she thought invoice, not lot combination. So that's kind of the story that she was explaining to me.
Councilman Carlson, does that answer your question? Yes, sir. Councilman Clendenin.
Do we have any city folks here that are subject matter experts that can talk about lot combinations and what the process is?
Yes, LaShawn Dock Development Coordination. Keep in mind, council, I mean, there's discussion about 1987, what occurred. What we have now is we have 2 lots, which is 1 zoning lot. This is a conforming lot, which is before you. So what has been provided, it has the dimensions on the site plan, it is there. I think what we should look at and what is before you is this 1 lot and the request to split it. And this lot is currently conforming with the RS-75.
So you're saying not to look at 1987, look at what is in front of us because it is currently
What is here
conforming,
today.
not what happened, okay.
But can I just ask, is there any, would you know if there's any documentation of file where the applicant or her representatives years ago maybe contested the combining of the 2 lots? Or any correspondence from the city confirming whether there was, how that was done? Is there any documentation?
That I don't have, I can't state, I did not research that prior to this hearing. We would have to research to see what is in the record or what we would have on file for that, if the applicant requested it previously.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
And I think what Councilman Carlson is getting to is, Ms. Bennett, I think it was, said, I wrote it down, that personal reasons are not competent and substantial evidence, and that's, you know, something that I always say cuts both ways. I mean, here we have some objective findings from City of Tampa that I think are very relevant, but if there is something that goes beyond personal reasons, that goes into some sort of, and legal, stop me if I'm going too far, please, but a legal issue, that's something that I think we want to know about before making our decision. Again, there's a distinction between personal challenges that, as tragic as they may be, are not, you know, legally binding or persuasive, irrelevant, I guess, if you will, as terrible as they may be, and otherwise, so.
Any response, legal? No?
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am?
I don't know where they come from. They're removing all these trees. They're gonna remove one tree to build this property, to build this house.
Thank you
That's
very
all they're gonna remove is one tree.
Thank you very much.
And, let me see. And on both properties, I planted a majority of those trees on those properties myself. I love trees. Right now, there's around 17 trees on the properties, which I've loved all these years. And I don't want to see trees torn down. I never have.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from council? No? Is there anything else, sir? The rebuttal time is up.
I just wanted to add that I was involved with that zoning conformance that occurred in 1987. And there was just a policy by the city. You weren't signing forms, but there was a policy by the city that if they was under the same ownership, they would automatically join them. And I think that there wasn't, I mean, I'm surprised that a notice went out. I know that there was a publication that was made that they were having zoning conformance meetings, and it did it by quadrant all over the city. But if you're not aware of what that meant, then you would have had a difficult time discerning what you should or shouldn't do if you wanted your lots to remain separated.
Thank you very much. And that was what I was wondering was there a transition period because of the new 1987 zoning? But we don't have proof. We don't know. We're not looking at that tonight. We're looking at the case that's in front of us with a conforming lot and an appeal by an applicant. So as much as I like to look at the history, I don't think that would be admissible that we look back at 1987.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kate Wells for the legal department. You know, at this point, we don't have any evidence before us with regard to what happened in 1987, other than there was an area-wide rezoning to change the zoning to RS-75. Since the owner of both parcels owned them prior to 1987, and they each would have been 55 feet wide, they would not have been conforming under the RS-75 zoning district. And it's not policy, it's in the code, that if there are two parcels in common ownership, combining the two parcels into one zoning lot makes it conforming. That's what we have today. So while they're asking to divide the zoning lot as they were originally platted, we have to recognize that these two lots became one zoning lot once the RS-75 zoning was approved.
And I have one last question. If the property owner wishes to sell the property and the new buyer demolishes everything and wants to build one large house, do they have to come before city council for anything and knock the trees down? Is there any reason to come back to council, or would that be an administrative approval or an approval by right that they wouldn't have to come here again?
What's before you is a request for a plan development that shows two structures, one in its current location, the other one on the lot that is proposed to be sold with the setbacks. You would have to comply with those, the location of both structures and the setbacks.
Okay.
If there's going to be a change to that approved site plan that exceeds what can be approved administratively, then it would come back before council for approval as with the original rezoning.
But there are options where it wouldn't have to come before council, leaving it as an RS-75 that they can, within the guidelines of RS-75, a new owner could say, I'm building a, whatever fits, 6,000 square foot home. I don't know how big you can fit on it, but.
If the application were denied, the RS-75 zoning would remain in place for both parcels.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion to
Point of
close.
order, sir. I did not receive a deed restriction from Mr. Michelini.
Very good. May I have a motion to close if there's nothing else? So moved. We have a motion to close from Councilman Vieira. Do we have a second? Second. Second from Councilwoman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. What is the pleasure of council? Would somebody like to read this, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I want to
Go
give
ahead,
thoughts
sir.
too.
Go ahead and go ahead.
No, go ahead. You, sir.
Yes, sir.
I owe you.
You're too funny. Your humor. So I kind of gave an inclination of where I was going in my thoughts, which is that, you know, there's, how shall I say this? There's obviously human issues in this that I think are very, very compelling with us. But unfortunately, we're bound by, you know, the issues that we have before us. And for me, they lead to one issue, which is unfortunately, for me, a denial. I don't like saying that. I speak because this is a tough vote, and I like to tell people on tough votes how I'm going to vote and why I'm going to vote. But again, the issue of something being compelling from a human perspective, unfortunately, is not by itself the kind of evidence that we need to support a decision one way or the other. And that cuts both ways, by the way. As I often say, sometimes if you have something that comes before us and people are opposing it, but there's not competent substantial evidence to support the opposition, well, again, it's going to cut that way. This time I think it's going to cut the other way. Again, I get no joy from saying that whatsoever, but I wanted to say it because I think that's what should be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Clendenin?
Yeah, we're probably going to hear a lot of the same tonight from my fellow council folks on this, and it's the testimony we heard. What is emotionally compelling, clearly, you know, for the homeowners, nobody can, you know, rate or judge your justification of what you're attempting to do. But for us sitting as land use, deciding of what land uses we build out the city of Tampa, we're not just building for today, we're building for tomorrow, and most of these structures are going to outlive all of us in this room. So we're trying how we plan and develop the city of Tampa is important, and I take that responsibility and give it the gravitas that it deserves. So we had a lot of that type of, and we had a lot of people state a lot of things, but very little of the stuff that in support of this request rose to what I would consider competent substantial evidence. A lot of anecdotal. It would have been much more compelling, like those petitions that I saw, if those folks were in here before us testifying from their personal experience versus a written petition. You know, if they were to come up here and talk to us about these things, I think that would have been, you know, maybe provided some input for, you know, for future use or reference for folks that are looking at these things. You know, I look at the land development in this neighborhood, and I think it's compelling that 91% of the properties are developed at a greater density, and I don't want to look at the oddball smaller lots as characteristic, or even the one-offs that may have been, you know, I've been sitting on council, I may not have supported that request. So one mistake does not justify the second mistake. And it's not, and I hear a lot, and people come before us all the time about comprehensive plan. So this is what potentially can be developed, but that's not necessarily how it has been developed, or even how these lots were initially platted. That may be how they were platted, but what we judge is how it was developed and what that existing neighborhood looks like. And that's the roles and responsibilities that we have in protecting the neighborhood. So I'll be voting to deny this tonight, and I feel for you and your family and your circumstances, but you know, in the greater good for the greater public service, that's the position I'll take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson, Miranda.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I've been through the similar situation with my parents moving out of the home I grew up in, and all those issues are really tough. We have to go with what the competent substantial evidence says and what the law says in the plan. And if there was hard evidence of going back and forth and some government agency admitted to making a mistake, or maybe even if there was a documentation where they question it publicly, I could look at that. I don't know that would change my mind, but anyway, unfortunately, I would have to side with what I say is the competent substantial evidence and the plan. Do you want me to make a motion? Or you want me to
Wait, we want to hear from everybody first. Councilmember Miranda?
Just for the record, to start off with, I wasn't here in 1987. Let me say that. This is an emotional hearing. It has factual on both sides. I can only say that in 1987, I was training racehorses with people who don't even know that I did that for about 10 years. What happened here is that things are said from both sides, and I believe both sides because everybody was sworn in. So one said that the names, there were signatures, and who knows if they're truth or not. I checked all the signatures to make sure that somebody didn't sign in the same handwriting somebody else's name. I'm not a handwriting expert, but I know enough about it to say that there were the signatures of someone, not the same person signing more than one. I also heard when I spoke to the neighbors and they were against it. I take that as evidence. I take that as truthful. Why? Everyone was sworn in. And that's the facts that I have to go by. I can say that what happens in one hearing may not be the same in the next hearing. There's very different little things that make the differences. What happened in '87, I don't know. But if the city did a citywide zoning, they made it 75 foot. Whether I like it or don't like it, that's what happened in '87. I feel compelled to say that this is a very difficult one for all of us, but we have to go with the facts that we have today, not the facts that we had in 1987. And I'm leaving it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, may I have a motion to close if there's nothing further? Motion to close from
Second.
Councilmember Clendenin with a second Councilmember Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What is the pleasure of council? Councilman Carlson.
I move to deny file number REZ 22-108 for the property located at 2309 South Cameron Avenue. Due to the failure of applicant to meet its burden of proof to provide competent substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown in the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. Also adopt the findings and reasoning of the city staff report. The city staff testified that it's inconsistent with the block face, out of character, and not compatible with the built environment. We also had other competent substantial evidence from the public, including the percentages of lots that are more than 91% greater than 60 feet. Also, we had in the staff report that 70% of the lots within the area of analysis are developed with a width of 75 feet or greater. And if you look at the block face, 100% of the lots are developed with a width of 75 feet or greater. It was noted that all three lots within the block face are developed at a lot width of 80 feet or greater, and one lot developed with a width of greater than 100 feet. While the proposed rezoning may be allowed for consideration under the existing future land use designation, I find that the resulting lot width of 55 feet for both proposed parcels is not consistent with the pattern of development in the immediate area and is thereby not consistent with land use policy 9.3.8, which requires new residential developments projects to be minimally disruptive to adjacent areas. Also, the proposed development as shown on the site plan does not promote or encourage development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed lot split is out of character with the surrounding area, is not compatible with the built environment. Also, there was testimony about section 27-11, numbers 1 through 7, I believe, that say, and among other things, no yard or zoning lot existing at the time of passage of this chapter shall be reduced in width, depth, or area by private action below the minimum requirements for a lot or structure as set forth in these chapters, and it goes on in those sections.
Anybody? Yes?
And Councilmember Carlson, I believe you were citing to the section of the code.
Yes, 27-11.
Versus comprehensive plan.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan.
But when you talked about the criteria for developing the site plan, I believe were you citing 27-136 for the purposes of just citing.
Right, section 27, yeah. I was looking at the comprehensive plan plus land code 27-136 and then 27-11.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Clendenin. May I have a roll call, please?
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda, Carlson,
Yes.
Hurtak, Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion to deny carried with Hurtak abstain.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Henderson is going to step out briefly for another
Thank you,
Big
council.
City event. Thank you very much, sir. Councilmember Carlson, are you leaving at 7? Okay, we will have Councilwoman Hurtak coming back shortly, and Councilmember Carlson will be gone at 7. All right, at this time, we will take,
Could we take,
you want a break?
just, I'm just wondering, a pause if we can. I'd like to have Councilwoman Hurtak back.
All right,
And
let's
see if
do
she
a,
has that form to be able to accept it and receive
let's
it
do
and
a
file.
3-minute pause. Huh? All right, we'll do a 5-minute pause. 5 minutes. Yeah, we'll be back at, yeah, just a pause. Just a pause.
Carlson. Hurtak. Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson. Vieira. Miranda. Maniscalco. We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to file my, I'd like to file my Form 8B, my voting conflict for the last case.
And that's for case number 2. We have a motion to
Yes,
receive and file
RZ
that
22-108.
from Councilmember Carlson to receive and file. Do we have a second?
That was from me.
Oh, motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes? And the clerk, ma'am? All right.
Okay. All righty.
All right. Go ahead, ma'am. Item
Thank
number
you.
3.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. Item number 3 is SU 2-2307. This is for the property at 1216 and 1290 Marion Street and 1221 North Florida Avenue. The applicant is represented by Todd Pressman. This is a special use request. The property is currently zoned CBD1. It is in the Central Business District. The request is for a special use for air-conditioned storage. And I'll turn it over to Danny to give the report, and I'll come back and give my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Collins, go ahead.
Danny Collins with your Planet Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Central Business District, and it's within the Downtown Partnership neighborhood. Subject site is within the coastal planning area, specifically Evacuation Zone B. It is shown here on our aerial map. It's just on the southeast corner of North Florida Avenue and East Laurel Street. Just out north of the site is Interstate 275. This is the Marion Transit Center directly to the east of the subject site. And then as you move south on Florida, you get into the downtown core. Here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site's in the Central Business District future land use category. It's shown here on the map. That category has no limit on maximum intensity or density within the category, and it's surrounded by the CBD on all sides. Under existing zoning regulations, the proposed use as an air-conditioned storage that is located within the Central Business District must be located north of Harrison Street and be integrated as part of a residential mixed-use structure. Additionally, the air-conditioned storage use cannot exceed 40% of the total building square footage. The proposed overall square footage of the PD consists of primarily air-conditioned storage. The proposed PD does not have a residential component. Per discussions with City of Tampa Land Development Coordination staff, the air-conditioned storage use is approximately 95% of the structure. So it is, it significantly exceeds that 40% of the total building square footage. While the proposed PD is providing a mix of uses with the business, professional office, retail sales, private cultural facility, and a rooftop garden is missing the critical component of residential uses, which are encouraged. The Marion Transit Center is located 1 block east of the subject site. The Central Business District is also identified as a business center in the comp plan, with specific policy language regarding the promotion of transit use by encouraging new economic development to take place in the form of density that supports transit. An air-conditioned storage use, by its unique operating characteristics, would typically not be deemed as a use that is supportive of transit use. The comprehensive plan supports a mixed-use development pattern around major transit stations that provide residential opportunities and would be supportive of increasing transit ridership. The approval of the proposed special use 2 requests that predominantly consist of storage would be moving away from this policy direction outlined in the comprehensive plan. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? Nope. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you again, Council. LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. Again, this is SU 2-2307. The request before you, this special use, the applicant proposes to construct a structure which contains 118,859 square feet. The property itself contains 0.43 acres or 18,507 square feet. The proposed use requires 11 parking spaces, and 13 spaces are provided. As we mentioned earlier and has been provided for you, the detail, this property is located within the Central Business District. The requested use of air-conditioned storage is a special use too, within the district. So what's been included within the staff report are the special use criteria, which are found in the 27-132. But also I'd like to just speak a little bit about the findings from staff and also a little bit on the proposal before you. So the applicant proposes to develop an 8-story mixed-use structure. The site plan proposes office for an air-conditioned storage unit. It would contain 582 square feet, and central business district uses are contained also on the ground floor, consisting of 5,521 square feet. Air-conditioned storage is proposed on levels 2 through 8 of the structure. And this would include a total of 777 storage units contained within 112,756 square feet. Also includes a rooftop garden. Because this property is located in the Central Business District in the CBD, prior to permitting, it must receive Design District review and approval. So it would must go through our DDR process, and then once they receive approval for that, then they move forward to permitting. So what is before you today is the special use request for the air-conditioned storage. And the other uses are considered at that time of DDR review. So although the CBD, one thing I'd like to do is, let me take a step back, is review the staff's findings. Planning Commission has provided you with their finding of inconsistent. On page 3 of the staff report, you see Development Coordination's finding of inconsistent, and I'll review that analysis in just a moment. On page 4 of the staff report, Urban Design has provided their review of and their finding of inconsistent, so I'd like to talk about that for a moment. Part of the analysis provided by Urban Design is that although the CBD does allow for air-conditioned storage, there are specific limits. Examples of the limits include the 2 that are required within the special use criteria. And one is that the project must contain at least 2 uses. One of those uses must be a residential use, and this project does not contain that residential component. The use shall not exceed, this is the use of the AC storage, shall not exceed 40% of the project square footage. And this project does not provide, it does not meet the standard. Also, Urban Design does not see an abundance of storage units activating the public realm, nor anything that is providing an amenity that serves the intent of the district. So within its proximity to the amenities such as the Marion Transit Center, the Riverwalk, Waterworks Park, the intent is to generate more activity for residents, not just within the CBD, but in the surrounding areas. And staff has found that this request does not meet that standard. Also, you will find the other staff's review on page 5 of the staff report, but also on page 7 of the report is the analysis from Development Coordination, which I'd like to review. This application is just important to note that the proposed AC storage would be the principal use of the structure. So the proposed storage allocation encompasses 95% of the building's square footage. The project does not include residential use as required by code. In review of the code, the air-conditioned storage has never been a permissible use in the CBD. When the CBD was written in 2009, it was added as a special use too. That means it must receive city council approval. It has never been a permitted use within the district. There are 2 locations to date that have air-conditioned storage within the urban core. One is Bell Channelside, and this is provided within the staff report on page 7. And the other is at 101 North Meridian. Bell Channelside was an adaptive reuse of the structured parking garage in 2008. And then the latest approval was at 101 North Meridian, and that's currently under construction. That incorporates residential uses along with the air-conditioned storage, and there's also a condition within that approval that states the residential must be constructed first prior to the storage being constructed. And so what I'd like to do is review with you the site plan that was provided. I have a couple of pages of the site plan just to show you the area, to orient you on this site. So this is Laurel Street. This is Laurel Street. This is Florida Avenue. This is Marion Street. This is the transit center that's here. So currently the property is vacant, but this is the property that is proposed here, outlined in gray. This is showing the first level of the plan. The entire packet is included, but I won't go through each level of the building. But this is Laurel Street, this is Marion Street, and then this is Florida Avenue. So you can see vehicular entrance to the site is proposed on Marion from the east, with the egress only to the north on Laurel Street. And what's proposed is all the other uses, like business professional office, cultural facility, the other CBD uses in these areas of the site on the first level. You have the parking spaces located on the first level and loading. And I'll show you the elevations of the proposed structure. So this is the front or the east elevation. This is the north elevation. And it shows you the west elevation. And then I have the zoning map, just to show you the aerial of the property. So this is the property located in red. This is Florida Avenue. This is Marion Street. And just for orientation, this is 275. And you can see that this is surrounded with this CBD1 zoning designation. And then the CBD district ends at 275. And north of 275, you get into your citywide zoning districts with the CI and a mixture of zonings north of the interstate. So this is the site. This is the northeast corner of the site. This is at Marion. This is another view of the site. This is the northwest corner of the site. Then a little bit further over, this view of the site itself. This is looking south on Florida. This is west of the site, across Florida. This is if you're looking north on Florida, so the site in this picture is off to the right. And then this is located, this is directly south, yes, south of the site. This is the transit station, which is located to the east. And then this is west of the site, which is currently vacant. So I reviewed the findings from the DRC staff, and there are 2 waivers that are requested. And the waivers are to section 27132, which is the special use criteria. One of the waivers is to allow the use of air conditioned storage without residential uses as at least one of the uses. And the other waiver is to increase the allowed square footage of air conditioned storage from the maximum square footage allowance of 40% to 95%. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, we have the applicant. I believe it's Mr. Pressman, and you have been sworn in. Go ahead, sir. Is this really 100 slides? I heard it was a big presentation.
I think it's more like 200, but I'll go through them quick.
Okay, thank you very much.
Todd Pressman, 200 Second Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. If we could pull up the PowerPoint, please.
Yes, we see it here. There you go, sir.
There you go. So this is SU2 2307. Appreciate the staff reports from Danny and LaShawn, who always do a good job. You've been made aware of the location, which is the north part of downtown. It's 3 separate parcels bordered by Florida Avenue, East Laurel, and Miriam. And LaShawn reviewed the neighboring uses, which is the Miriam Bus Transit Center, the apartments abutting on the south, parole office, state government on the west, and the site to the north are a business and additional bus services. What's important, which I'll come back to, is the Madison Apartments are located abutting on the south, which is an important element for this request. And as LaShawn showed you, these are some of the surrounding properties in the immediate area. So this is an elevation. Mr. Friedman is here and our engineer is here. He's tied into support with the Tampa History Center, cultural elements, and the Art Museum, which would be displayed cultural elements, not commercially. What's really a gorgeous building and gorgeous design, which would be a beautiful facility at this particular location, including a roof garden, which I'll tell you is more than just amenity in just a moment, which would include solar panels, green roof, obviously, and also a tie-in to Feeding Tampa Bay. This is an artist rendering of what that would look like. Now, as staff has indicated, there's a lot of criteria. What this issue comes down to is two issues. One is a mixed use requirement with two uses, one being a residential use. The other is that storage facility at the most can be 40% of a site. I want to digress just for a second. I have to make a correction on the slide. The code refers to counting square footage. There's a lot of different ways to count square footage. As we've looked at it, and our engineer looked at it, we used usable floor area, which contains the whole site. Under usable floor area, which is defined in the code, that would be 75% of complete storage. So I think, again, there's a lot of different ways to count square footage. We think that's a more fair way to count square footage, but I didn't want to digress too much into that. Now, as indicated to you, the Madison Apartments, over 55 apartments, are abutting next door. In fact, they would be touching as a party wall between the two uses. And as Sean showed you, this would be the project site and the party wall is shown there. The point is that this city block will act as storage and residential. The intent of the ordinance is to have activity and energy and synergy to tie into a residential use. Well, that's what this block will be. I would suggest to you, like the adage, if it looks like duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So this is a large residential component tied immediately next door, abutting, touching to a storage facility. And when we look at that qualification, we show that the use, storage use, would be about 39 or 40%, right where the code calls for. And we have a letter from Madison Heights, the apartments next door. They're very excited about this use. And they tell you that they have enthusiastic support. The tenants are excited to have access to the rooftop garden and acquire storage spaces right next door. The business will enhance the neighborhood, also provide much needed services and experiences for the community members. And this is written by their real estate manager. In the same regard as a residential support use, which is what this is, it's a residential support use as well. Garrett Wise, multifamily property manager, as a 10-year downtown multifamily property manager, the 915 building, as I understand it, is one of the largest, if not the largest, residential buildings downtown. The storage space is very much needed that downtown residents bring to him every day. And Mr. Friedman will speak to you as he canvassed and talked to a lot of the apartment buildings and condo buildings downtown. Storage is desperately needed, and there is not much down there. So what we tried to do was add to that to bring towards the intent of the code for community engagement support. So on the first floor will be a retail space. We'll have entrepreneurship mentoring, community boardroom, and leased business professional office. But Mr. Friedman is tied in very tightly with USF, and they're here tonight to speak to you. Mr. Alan Clary, USF professor for entrepreneurship, who will handle classes and speakers, community engagement in this part of the city, and community mentoring program. So these are a couple efforts that we're making to meet the intent, real intent of the code, the driving of a code for what is desired at this site. I'll remind you as well that this site is very small. It's only 0.4 acres. It's very difficult to do anything with 0.4 acres with parking requirements. In fact, as we looked at this being a potential residential use with the engineers, by the time you configure ramping up and ramping access points, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to produce a residential site on 0.4 acres. And regarding further, for the Nault Center of Entrepreneurship Innovation, they're thankful for inviting USF to partner with us. It fits perfectly with their strategy. and to bring encouragement and resources to community to meet future innovators where they are. And you have their commitment to meet and fuel the community entrepreneurship center through programs and personnel. Now, the rooftop garden was another element, which I think was a great idea, to again create energy, activity, and synergy, bringing people to the site for a rooftop garden, which people are not able to have downtown, which is again another elevation that we wanted to show you how we look for that to work. Now, there are comp plan policies that do support this request. Land use policy 9.3.10 to ensure flexibility, to encourage a diverse mix of housing types, affordable units, and essential services that are needed. Recreation, business, employment, home-based businesses, school, transportation, and yes, residential support for small condos and small apartments. Policy 9.1.4, mix of commercial, service, and other non-residential uses that address the needs of families and other household types living in an urban neighborhood. We also asked private planner Ortiz Planning Solutions, which I'll put in the record, to look at this request and look at this application. Her determination was that the relatively small size of dwelling units within the existing and planned urban high-rise buildings and the short-term tenancy occupancy rates characteristic of apartment living necessitates a need for conveniently located storage of bulky items and things that are not used daily, consistent with the vision of the downtown core. So I would like to put this in the record when I'm finished, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of criteria. I do want to place this in emphasis. There's a lot of criteria that control these, and these are, as I list them for you, but as I've indicated, we've come down to two specifically that are the items under the special use that staff has brought as a concern. When you look at other downtown areas, they have a lot of storage. This is Miami, downtown Orlando, downtown Fort Lauderdale, downtown St. Pete. Storage is a necessity, which has been recognized by other cities. If you want to encourage residential downtown, you have to allow support uses to support them. It also provides a great buffer and screening from I-4, particularly to the apartments, the Madison apartments that we're abutting to, as I've showed you. And again, as we looked at this site, when we heard comments from the staff indicating looking for residential uses, we don't believe that this is able to be engineered as a decent or really productive residential site of any kind with what's required for that type of development. So with that, a few letters of support, including the Glazer Children's Museum. They consider it featuring downtown rural cultural arts. They're in full support of the request. Tampa Museum of Art supports efforts to feature cultural assets of the Tampa Bay community. Millions of passersby traveling by car looking forward to working with you. And Tampa History Museum expressing support for your concept to promote downtown arts, cultures, and venue. So in summary, the whole city block will act as the intent of the regulations. We've added unique community supportive activities that will provide energy, vibrancy, and activity. We virtually meet all the criteria except for two, which we've worked hard to address. Comp plan policies support and recognize residential support use, especially needed in the CBD. The site is small and cannot support, in our opinion, a credible residential use, and we have good community support. So with that, I'd like to invite, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Friedman, who's the applicant, and the representative from USF. If I may put this in the record.
Go ahead. Just leave it up there. Mr. Shelby will get it. Oh, there he is. Thank you. All right, Mr. Friedman, please state your name.
Steve Friedman.
Go ahead, sir.
First, I want to thank you all for what you do here for the city. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, and I appreciate that. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present today, and I'm asking permission for your support so I can build this self-storage kind of cultural center, community center. It's totally different than anything's ever been announced before for downtown Tampa. I came to Tampa almost 50 years ago. Came here to go to USF to get my degree. I got a degree in finance. And back then, when I was a senior, I knew I wanted to start my own company, and I went to my finance professor and said, hey, would you back me on an independent research project, 5 hours, start my own company, I'll do a thesis on some industry. And he said, Steve, you can't make your own classes up here. You got to just pick one of these. And I said, well, who else could I talk to? And he said, well, you can talk to the dean. Made an appointment with the dean, and I told him what my idea was to start a company when I got out of college. And he said, you know what, Steve? Nobody's ever asked. Yeah, you're on. 5 hours, first time ever. So I kind of had my own entrepreneurship class the dean and myself for 5 hours. I got an A+ on it. It was about an 80-page hand-typed written report with a little bit of whiteout on it. And I started my business 44 years ago out of USF, 1 week out of school with $200 and a Sears credit card. I have offices around the state now. I've employed hundreds of people. I've had 3 generations of family working for me. So it wouldn't happen without USF and the dean believed in me and give me a chance. This exciting concept now, you know, I developed a self-storage at Midtown before Midtown was open. And it's a self-storage that's at I-275 in Del Mabry. That's a trophy property. It really adds to the visibility. It's nothing like any other self-storage around. That's what I plan on doing, this one here. This is a museum quality building. From the interstate, there's 7 million cars a month. And if you decide you want to do this, the museums downtown, they have very limited budgets. You drive through St. Pete, you drive through other towns, and it's known as a cultural city. It's not, when you look at downtown Tampa, you see this kind of trashy area right off of the interstate where I'm going to build this kind of transitional building here. And you're going to have the banners from, if you approve it, I mean, it's totally up to you. It's no charge for me. It's like a $7 million gift. If they had to pay for advertising, they'll have their banners promoting the museum. So people driving by, Tampa will look a lot different with that on the, plus the building's a beautiful building. You know, it's funny how things come full circle, because partnering with USF, the Entrepreneurship College, they're going to have an office right in the building on the first floor. And we're going to support that office, and there's no charge to USF. I love helping people, I love changing lives, I love giving back, and this is a great opportunity to partner with USF. The rooftop garden is going to be a wonderful addition. I talked to the people at Madison Apartments that abut us. They said they can't wait for it. I knocked on lots and lots of apartment doors, the new apartments that were just built, you name it, Section 8, and we have 2 letters from 2 of the apartment buildings that you saw earlier. Everybody was 100% along with it, so, sorry. So I'm a local person. I believe in staying in the community here. I'm not an outside developer. I built Midtown. I'm reinvesting in downtown Tampa. So our profits stay here in the community. Thank you for hearing me today, and I hope you grant me permission to build this. This is a man from USF, Dirk.
Please state your name, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dirk Liebaars. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at the Mumma College of Business at the University of South Florida. I'm also the director of the Knoll Center for Entrepreneurship at USF, and we are really excited to be associated with this project. We have been looking for a downtown presence for the Knoll Center for Entrepreneurship for a long time, and this is a unique opportunity. So what do we propose to do with this community center for entrepreneurship? We will be running seminars, workshops, we will have events, we will have pitch competitions, and we will implement a mentorship program. And we have an extensive mentor base that we developed over time at USF. And we opened up that program to the community, to people that want to create businesses, right? We want to create more wealth creators and job creators. I think that's in all of our interests, obviously. I view this proposed project as a win-win-win-win. It's a win for Mr. Friedman, it's a win for USF, it's a win for the budding entrepreneurs in the downtown Tampa area, and it's a win for the whole Tampa community, I think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I just want to add, this entrepreneurship center is different than anything else. It's not a tech incubator. You don't have to have an MBA, nothing. You just need one thing, passion. If you have passion, come in. We'll show you how to start a company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from council before we go to public comment? Nope. All right. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on item number 3? All right. Yes, sir. Councilman Miranda.
From the design and everything is gorgeous. However, how do I handle that with what the code says? I think it says you got to have residential. However, they have something that's equivalent to some bit or whatever.
Is that a question for staff then?
Yeah, no, I'm just talking to myself. No, I really am. You asked me and I'm just letting it out. There's a lot of things that come to the positive, and then I gotta look at the code. So how do to myself, how do I handle that? There's never been a building of this type and this criteria on just being what it is, a storage center that was designed, I guess that's the design that they have. And then the other side of me is telling me, how do you fit the 40% residential into that when it's not there? So, I mean, I would imagine some of us, or not if all of us, are struggling with that same thing. So that's where we're at.
Is there a question, or you just making?
No, I'm just talking to myself, really. I do that all the time.
Councilmember Clendenin?
Yeah, I think I have that answer, and, you know, I see this, I understand why staff saw it inconsistent, but we're the policymakers. They're interpreting the existing policy, we're the policymakers. And as we're looking at reinventing Tampa, you know, we heard a case earlier about in these residential areas. We're trying to develop growth in appropriate places, and the Central Business District is obviously one area that we're trying to encourage density. And along with density requires amenities that, you know, that goes along with that to support the residential. And I think it was well taken that this block was developed with, you know, apartments on one part and then this and the other, which kind of lends into the argument that supports this. The amenities will serve a much broader area that, you know, we're trying to expand transit through the urban core. We see this tremendous growth in downtown. You see a lot of this land available in the area that this is being developed. It's going to be developed. More people are going to be moving here. I think in 10 years you'll look back and you're going to see a lot of folks. But when you bring more people, you need more things. You need more restaurants. You need more of everything. And storage is one of them. We're not building these condos. They're darn expensive. We're not building them the condos any bigger. And people still like their stuff, so they want to have some place to put their stuff. So I think that we're really lucky to have. We're blessed in Tampa to have a handful of folks that live here that want to develop Tampa in a right way, and they're committed to the city of Tampa. You know, we see that around here. There's, like I say, instead of the people that are hit and goes that come in and just build for whatever they want to build, and then they don't have to live with the consequences. So to have a developer that went to school here, lives here, is invested in the city of Tampa, is clearly looking to build a quality project, I applaud that, and I think that's why it's a waiver. Obviously, that that he's asking to request a waiver, and I'm inclined to grant that waiver because I think it fits with the growth pattern, it fits with where we were trying to build density, and you know, quite honestly, somewhere in the future, 20 years from now, maybe the best use of that property isn't going to be storage, and there'll be something else there. But you know, they're not building out of gold. It can be changed and repurposed. So I think this is a good project, and I'm going to support it.
Yes, sir.
I guess the question, I guess, was raised by Councilmember Miranda's statements and also following up with what Councilwoman Clendenin says. With regard to the waivers, you have the waiver criteria. These waivers are being requested, and specifically, those were the waivers that Mr. Miranda had stated. The question for council then, and I guess this may be the question for staff or for legal, is to look at exactly what you're voting on here, which is the granting of those waivers then to allow this special use too. There was a lot of discussion about amenities or particular projects within the building. And the question then is, what relevance is that, number one? And number two is, how binding is that on the development? In other words, are any of those waivers connected to the amenities? And if so, how, and how is that enforced?
It's my understanding, I'm sure staff could address this if you want to, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Council, thank you, LaShawn, Doc Development Coordination. I just would like to just remind Council, so what is before you is a special use two request. The applicant would go through 3 processes to get final approval. One, the special use two is for air-conditioned storage only. So you've seen elevations, there's been conversation about the proposed use, what would be placed on the site, the building elevations. Keep in mind what is before you is the request for air-conditioned storage and the special use criteria, which is within the staff report, which is under 27-132. Yep. Their next level After this step would be to go through the DDR process. And that is the design district review process. It is an administrative review, and that is for all properties that is located within the CBD. They go through that process. It is an urban design review. And then from there, they go to permitting. So what is before you is the air-conditioned storage, the proposed use of air-conditioned storage, and the special use criteria that run along with that requirement for the air-conditioned storage. And those two waivers are specific to that.
Right. That's how I understood it as well. So when this goes through the design, so when this particular developer presents this design and it goes through that process, that's when it would be bound, correct?
Correct. And that's when the other uses that have been discussed, the rooftop garden, those things are considered at that point in time.
But we have to get past.
Right now,
we have to get past step one first. Yeah.
Which is the air-conditioned storage.
Councilman Cross.
Just to add to the record, I think that it deserves a waiver because it is compatible with the residential uses around it. Now we have high-intensity residential units pretty much all around this facility, and so it is a service that would be added to that. And it is adjacent, on the same block, adjacent to a high-density residential facility, and therefore it would be an amenity to the residences.
Thank you very much. And I noticed that it was on the old Goody Goody property, I think. So I'm glad to see that that parcel is going to be filled in because it's been vacant for, I don't know, almost 15 years or more. But I've been here long enough to see to approve a variety of storage facilities, and the issue is always parking. But in the central business district is different. And storage facilities, which is nice, is you don't need a lot of parking because there's people coming in and out. Also, it's in downtown where you're surrounded by more residential. And apartments and condos, whatnot, they're not very big. There are some bigger units, but storage is always often an issue. So this is a service to the community. But the partnership with USF, I think, is unique. I think the rooftop amenity, the rooftop garden, however you want to call it, with solar, with everything else, I think that's a plus. I saw the support from the residential next door. So if you look at the complete block, you have that percentage of residential. I know it's a separate parcel, but you have somewhat of a balance there. And also just the design. I don't know if I'll ever say this about another storage facility, but it's beautiful. If you look at, it's very Art Deco, some of the accents and whatnot. I can see a lot of time and passion has been put into this. It's not just a warehouse. It's something that'll be aesthetically pleasing on the outside. It won't look like a storage facility. People will wonder, is it a theater? Is it what is it? An office building? So I understand there are waivers requested. I don't have an issue with them. Downtown is a little bit different than the rest of the city, the central business district, but this is the first layer of many, so they'll go through that downtown design process, and there's multiple steps, but I'm happy to support this. Yes, sir.
Hi, David Hunter. I'm the urban design coordinator for the city of Tampa, and I have just a few comments that I would like to reemphasize from the staff report. And as LaShawn mentioned, that the design element for this project cannot be really considered at this stage because it will more than likely change dramatically during that DDR process, just based on what's presented. And then even then, it may change even further once it goes through permitting. Things like stairwell shafts, elevator shafts, those things all can impact the design. So the design aspect of it should not be considered right now.
Okay.
The graphics, sure, they look nice, but they shouldn't be considered at that point. The other point we'd like to emphasize is that them trying to parlay this with the property next door, those are separate. That would be saying, well, is this also a bus stop? Because Marion Street bus stop is right across the way. We don't think it is. We think it needs to be viewed as its own entity. Also, it should be noted that the banners, again, this isn't necessarily need to be considered at this point. But those banners for the art museum would not be allowed and require its own separate waiver, as that would be off-site signage for the museum. And so those would really be the main complaints at this time.
So eliminate all the designs, all the pluses, all the pretty things, all the extra words that I added. There's residential downtown. Downtown, not next door, downtown.
Right.
People need storage. This is offering a service to the people that need storage. That's it.
So I would go back to the code that says shall not exceed 40% of the property's square footage. Shall not exceed 40% of the property. When now what they're proposing is over twice the allotted amount. And again, that's looking at this property as its own entity.
Move to close.
Yes, we're spending too much time on this.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir?
Martin Shelby,
Yes.
City Council Attorney. I'd like to have the applicant's representative have the last word.
Oh,
because
is there a
was additional
rebuttal
testimony.
here, Mr.
If
President?
there's anything that he'd like to close with.
No, I don't think so. I think the comments from the council members have been very straightforward, and we're glad that you understood everything we had to say, and we appreciate whatever support you deem so. Thank you.
Move to close.
Motion from Councilman Carlson to close, second from Councilman Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Miranda, would you like to read item number 3? No. Councilman Pierre? I'll read it.
Move an ordinance approving a special use permit SU2, approving air-conditioned storage in a CBD Central Business District zoning class or district in the general vicinity of 1290 and 1216 Merriam Street and 1221 North Florida Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 hereof, providing an effective date, and then here we go. I find that the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent substantial evidence that the proposed special use is conditioned and shown on the site plan is conditioned with is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code, and I find the requested waivers do not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare. There you go.
Yes,
And
sir.
to include the changes on the revision sheet between first and second reading, is that correct, Ms. Dodd? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Clendenin. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
No.
Carlson,
Yes.
Hurtak,
No.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson, Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda, Hurtak voting no, and Henderson being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
I had to excuse myself.
Good night. Yes, sir. Item number 5, correct? Yes.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Council. Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 5 is REZ 2373. Request to rezone 11,300, 11,408, and 11,304 North Central Avenue in folio numbers 94933.0100, 94941.000, and 94934.0100 from Commercial General, Residential Office 1, and Residential Single Family 50 to CI. I'll turn it over to Danny with the Planning Commission now.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff have been sworn in. This case may look familiar. There was a comprehensive plan amendment, I think it was a month or 2 months ago on this site, so it may look familiar. It's within the University Planning District, and it's within the East Forest Hills neighborhood Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. It's just south of Fowler Avenue and the East Fowler, just south of Fowler Avenue and west of 275 North. It's predominantly non-residential in character. There are some auto dealerships north of the site along Fowler, as well as some non-residential uses up along Florida Avenue to the west. And then east of the interstate, you have some residential uses. Here is the adopted future land use map. This map is the old land use map. We haven't updated it yet. But this site is recognized under the Community Commercial 35 designation. The CMU 35 designation is to the north. It's denoted in this red color. R10 is this tannish color to the west. And then there is some R35 to the south of the subject site, as well as east of the site, just east of Interstate 275. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found the request consistent with a number of policies in the comprehensive plan. The proposed CI zoning district can be considered under the Community Commercial 35 designation, which is consistent with land use policy 8.14.2. The proposed CI zoning is present to the north and to the west of the site. The subject site is situated just south of East Fowler Avenue, which is a transit emphasis corridor that is suitable for intensification and redevelopment. Due to the request being a Euclidean rezoning, the applicant should ensure development of the site addresses all applicable comprehensive plan policies, including those related to development within mixed-use centers and corridors and the commercial areas section. Additionally, the applicant shall ensure non-residential development of the site is appropriately buffered from any adjacent residential uses per land use policy 15.2.4. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Sam Thomas Development Coordination. We'll start out with an aerial map of the site. You can see it outlined in red here, just east of North Central Avenue. As you go to the north, you can see Fowler Avenue, and then over to the east, you have North Florida Avenue. Along Florida and Fowler Avenue, you have CI uses. This is mainly car dealerships here. As you move south of the site, you can see a planned development here that is Brooks Collegiate High School. East of the site here, you have a residential office zoning, which is vacant with a billboard. And then just north of that in the CG zoning, you have a school. As you move to the east, this is an FDOT retention pond, and here are some single-family detached homes recognized under the RS50 zoning district. Because this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan or elevations, so I'll show you some pictures from around the site. So this is looking north on Central Avenue. This picture is from standing as if you were right here. So the subject parcels are back behind that blue building and then south of the parking garage. This is looking at the school. The subject parcels will be back behind here and to the south. Here are the subject parcel right here and then back behind the billboard. And this is looking south on Central Avenue. This is looking directly at the subject site to the west. And this is south of the subject site on Central Avenue, the high school that was mentioned earlier. This is looking east at Interstate 275 from Central Avenue. That's the last of my pictures. Development, coordination, and compliance staff reviewed the application and find it consistent with the land development code. The requested CI zoning district is consistent with the development pattern in the area. If approved, the zoning must adhere to the Tampa Comprehensive Plan for maximum density, FAR limits, and permissible uses in the CI zoning district. Additionally, any development on the site would be required by code to provide buffering between the CI uses and the residential single-family detached uses to the east. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, applicant.
My name is Yancey Abutin, and I work for Spring Engineering. Our office is located in Holiday, Florida. I'm representing the property owner. The CI zoning that we're requesting will allow the property owner that owns the car dealerships along North Florida Avenue and Fowler and Central Avenue to expand into the 4 acres that we're asking for the rezoning on. Your development review and compliance staff has already reviewed the application and found the request consistent with the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. And if you approve this rezoning, our intent would be to comply with all codes to meet the development requirements. Have no further comments. Can try and answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the gentleman? No? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 5?
Motion to close. Second.
Wait, any rebuttal or anything else, sir? No, anything else you want to add? No?
I have no rebuttal.
Okay, well, I asked. Motion closed from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda, would you mind reading item number 5?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 5, REZ 23-73. Orders being presented for first reading consideration. An orders rezoning property in general vicinity of 11300, 11408, and 11304 North Central Avenue, and folio numbers 094933/0100 and 0949410000 and 094934-0100, and City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 zoning district classification, CG Commercial General, RO1 Residential Office, and RS50 Single Family to CI Commercial Intensive, providing an effective date. Let me turn to number 5. And the applicant has proven to burden of proof for this rezoning. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. The compliance and goals and objectives of policy comprehensive plan is noted. The future land use designation for the property was recently changed to CC-35 pursuant to TA/CPA 2314. It is reasonable to process the requested zoning to CI, and due to the abundance of commercial use in the surrounding area, the proposed CI district is compatible with the surrounding areas and consistent with land use policy 2.1.2 and 15.2.4, and the zoning would allow for expansion of existing use in Fowler Avenue, consistent with the area's immediate surrounding and subject site, which is comprised of C1 uses, single-family detached units, and 2 schools.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilmember Miranda, second for Councilmember Vieira. Roll call vote.
Carlson? Hurtak?
Yes.
Clendenin?
Yes.
Henderson? Vieira?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson, Henderson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. located at Old City Hall, excuse me, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida 33602.
Thank you very much. Item number 6, yes, sir.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 6 is REZ 2380. Request to rezone 5025, 5035 East Fowler Avenue from Commercial General to PD for air-conditioned storage and all CG uses. I'll turn it over to Danny now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Collins, yes, sir.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This case is within the University Planning District, and it's in the Terrace Park neighborhood. The site is not within an evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and surrounding properties. This site was also a comprehensive plan amendment that you heard a few months ago. It's generally just on the south of East Fowler Avenue and to the east of North 50th Street. East Fowler Avenue is predominantly non-residential in character. There are some residential uses as you move south from the subject site. This is the old adopted future land use map. Site's currently recognized under the CMU 35, so this southern portion is also CMU 35. The CMU 35 is to the northeast and west of the site. There is residential 35 to the south. This is the USF campus, which is recognized under the public semi-public designation. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application, found the rezoning consistent with several policies of the comprehensive plan. Commercial general uses can be considered in the CMU 35 designation, which is consistent with land use policy 8.14.2. The applicant has entered into a bonus provision agreement to allow additional density above the buy rate intensity within the CMU 35, which is consistent with land use policy 8.14.1. The PD promotes a development pattern that encourages walking and transit use consistent with the mixed-use centers and corridor policies. Sidewalks are provided along East Fowler Avenue and North 51st Street, and pedestrian connections are provided to building entrances. Also, internal pedestrian connections are provided throughout the site that will help facilitate pedestrian safety and accessibility. Finally, the PD is comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. As mentioned, this portion of East Fowler Avenue is predominantly non-residential in character. The request is consistent with land use policy 15.2.1, which encourages commercial uses to be developed in character and scale with the surrounding area. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right, yes, sir.
Before I get started, I would like to make a correction for the record. In the staff report submitted by city staff, the future land use designation is listed as CMU 35 and R35. As Danny just noted, the future land use designation is CC 35. Additionally, I do have a revised revision sheet for you all. I can give that to Mr. Shelby now. So we'll start out with an aerial view of the subject site. You can see it outlined in red, and it's on the south side of Fowler Avenue. Just along Fowler Avenue here, before you, after you pass North 50th Street, you have mainly commercial uses. As you move past 50th Street, you have the University of South Florida on the north side of Fowler Avenue, and on the south side of Fowler Avenue, you have Mosey. South of the subject site, you have an office. To the east, to the northeast, to the northwest, excuse me, you have commercial general uses, and then to the south, under the PD, you have multifamily. You have multifamily to the east here, and then some additional multifamily to the south. And then, as you can see, our zoning district lines kind of stop here. This is where you move into Temple Terrace. Here is the site plan provided by the applicant. Let me zoom in a little bit more because there's a lot going on here. So as you saw on the aerial map, the subject site currently has a commercial strip center that runs along the east side of the site and then the southern side of the site. The applicant is proposing demolishing the commercial center along the east side of the site and then proposing a 108,000 square foot storage use along the east side of the site. The commercial uses that are towards the south side of the site will remain, along with the convenience store and the gas station that's currently existing on site. The proposed entry points for the self-storage will be facing Fowler Avenue, one internal here, and then another one internal here. The air-conditioned storage building will be oriented towards Fowler Avenue with a max height of 59 feet or 5 stories. Sidewalks are provided along Fowler Avenue and then along 51st Street as well. 80 parking spaces are required and 68 parking spaces are being provided. As was noted earlier, the subject site has a CC 35 future land use designation that allows the site to be considered for a 1.0 FAR by right or a 2.0 with the bonus agreement. The applicant has entered into a bonus agreement pursuant Code Section 27-140F1 and agrees to pay the amount of $314,141 to allow the development up to a 1.13 FAR. The associated bonus provision agreement is presented concurrently with this application, and I'll show you some elevations. These are the elevations of the self-storage. This is the east. This would be looking north, west, and south. And then the applicant has provided elevations of the existing structures that will remain on site. Here is the gas station and the gas station signs. This is the existing sign for the retail. This is the existing convenience store. And this is the existing strip center to the south that will remain. And then you have some additional pictures of the convenience store, and there is an existing billboard on site as well. Here are some pictures of the site. So this is looking south from Fowler Avenue. You can see the convenience store here, and then the strip plaza in the back, and you can see a little bit of the corner of the gas station right there. This would be looking east towards Temple Terrace. You have the convenience store and the gas station here, so this is internal on the site that you're viewing. Here's moving farther south into the site. You're looking at the strip center that will remain now. And there's another view. You can see where the strip center kind of turns here, where it turns to go to along the east side of the property. That'll be demolished. And here's another section of the strip center that will be demolished. This would be looking north from where the commercial uses would be to the south, and this is looking north towards Fowler Avenue. This is some of the multifamily to the west that was discussed earlier. And this is the office building located directly behind the subject site. Put the site plan back up. The applicant is requesting 7 waivers. Development coordination and compliance staff has reviewed the application and find the request to be inconsistent with the land development code. See the findings from transportation related to the parking waiver. Notwithstanding staff's finding of inconsistency, if city council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revised revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the issues of staff's findings of inconsistency. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. All right, applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. Jim Porter with Ackerman, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa. I'm representing the applicant, who's also here tonight, John Dorman. As Sam said and the Planning Commission said, the subject property is a long-standing strip center on Fowler Avenue. It's a very busy section of Fowler, and the proposal is to demolish part of the shopping center, rebuild it with self-storage, and that's what the proposal is for you tonight. The proposal will result in increased pedestrian safety. There'll be internal sidewalks and also external sidewalks on 50th Street and 51st Street. As you've heard earlier tonight, self-storage is a relatively passive use. Some of the uses on the site now, including a bar and smoke shop, are probably more intense than the self-storage. It will result in less trips and less parking requirements because of the nature of it. Sam showed you some pictures, but I want to sort of emphasize where we are because it is a fairly intense commercial area already. As you approach the site coming on Fowler Avenue, you can see the existing billboard and the sign for the strip center. There is a gas station on site that will remain. This is looking directly across Fowler Avenue. There's a cell tower across the street, another strip center. This is the section of the shopping center that will be demolished. And this is another section of that looking for the section that will be demolished. We're not aware of any opposition to this. We've worked closely with staff, both the Planning Commission staff and your staff, and we respectfully ask for your approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Nope. Do you have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 6? Yes, ma'am. Please come up and state your name.
Thank you for your time tonight. My name's Christine Garleski, and I'm here on behalf of Tampa Life Church. We, the owners of 1550 East Fowler Avenue, directly adjacent to this property, would like to bring to your attention the rezoning request for the property located on the east side, which I'm really not seeing pictures of that, which is currently under review by the City Council organization. Tampa Life Church and Calvary, DBA Calvary Tabernacle, has some major concerns about the proposed plans, which we would like to detail below, and I will give information afterwards. Firstly, the proposed 5-story height of the building is a concern. The majority of the neighboring properties are only 1-story high. So this will create a 5-story wall beside our facility. blocking the eastward view from a majority of our property. And here is a rendering. Pull that down. You can see this is what they're proposing. And Fowler goes in this direction here. It's not really straight. Okay. So, secondly, as per the site plans, the building's current footprint is to be moved 60-plus feet closer to the sidewalk. And a second-story office section is to be added, creating a wall that will block visibility to and from the building on Fowler Avenue. Lastly, as per the site plans, here. So this shows you, this is our building right here. This is the sidewalk, this is Fowler, and this is where they're proposing to take the building over to our direction. If you look right here, we have a sidewalk that is our property that runs and wraps around our building. So as the existing building is to be removed and built 20 feet closer to the east side of our property, making the 5-story building even more looming and imposing. This will place the building just 11 feet from the private sidewalk that wraps around the east side of our property and about 20 feet away from the building itself. We are currently in the process of bringing our property up to the standards of the surrounding community, and we plan to remodel this property that Tampa Life Church owns on 5015 East Fowler as a community outreach center. Based on what we've learned, the current Fowler Avenue Comprehension Vision Plan, we went to that meeting, is to create more community spaces within that area. And a 5-storage facility does not align with that vision for Tampa City. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak for item number 6, public comment? There's nobody registered. Do we have rebuttal from the applicant?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. I want to show you, this is the property the woman was talking about. When I visited the site, it did not appear that there was any activity there, but that is what it looks like. And this is what the property looks like. I'm standing on the sidewalk in front of the property, and this is the existing building that will be demolished. Mr. Dorman, who is the applicant in here tonight, did speak with the pastor. I'm going to ask him to speak to what that conversation was like, and I'll finish up after that. So, Mr. Dorman.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Jonathan Dorman. My address is 8437 Tuttle Avenue in Sarasota. I'm with Storcon Development. We are the applicant for this request. I received a call, I don't think it was the pastor, but it was from a member of the church. They had a couple of sort of benign questions about what we were doing. Were we going to change the access on the property? And I think I answered the questions to their satisfaction. I haven't received any further communication from the church since then. I will say that the proposed height of the building in proximity to Fowler Avenue is 2 stories, and it doesn't step up to 5 stories until we get back further off of Fowler Avenue. And so we did that so that it wasn't sitting right up on top of Fowler Avenue. And we have worked with staff in terms of the building setbacks and the landscaping buffers that are between our property and the adjacent property to the east. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have, but to this point, I was not aware of any concerns other than those that were, benign questions that were asked to me on the phone.
Thank you very much. Sure. Wait, yes? Yes.
If I may, I was going to say, and I don't know how council will vote on this, but what I would ask is between first and second reading, if we do send this for approval, that you meet. And I would have to ask this nice lady a question, if I may, just as to her position. I may have missed that with the church.
Go ahead, ma'am. If you could come up, the council member would like to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am. Just one question, brief question with a brief answer, if I may.
Yes.
What's your position with the church? Are you affiliated with them or a
I
member?
am. I'm one of the project managers.
Okay, that's what I
Yes.
thought. So you're officially with the church?
Yes,
Okay,
I
thank you,
am.
ma'am. Appreciate
Yes.
you. Thank
And
you so
this
much,
is the
ma'am.
documentation.
So if I may, for you, sir, if I may, so if this is voted on and we forward it to second reading, I would just request, again, not I don't know how I'm going to vote, but that you all just meet with the church, because apparently there still are some concerns.
Of course,
and
we'd be
whatnot, just
happy
as
to.
a good citizen, I guess, if you.
Sure, and a good
Thank
neighbor.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Porter?
Yeah, Council, I appreciate that recommendation. The way we do things, we like to meet with neighbors, and if we know there's opposition, we sit down and we try to work out the details. Again, when I represented to you that we weren't aware of any opposition, that's because we weren't aware of any, but we will certainly do that. This proposal is really going to clean up this site. I mean, it's a long-term existing shopping center, and it's seen better days, quite frankly. And I think removing some of the uses that are going to be removed, including a bar, is certainly going to be more compatible with a church that's right next door. So I think overall it's a positive project. I mentioned the pedestrian amenities that will be both internal to the site. I walked the site yesterday, and that will be very welcome if this is approved, and also the sidewalks external to the property. So we would love to sit down with her and sit down with the church and figure out if there are other things we can do. And if that means the second reading needs to be continued because we need to make changes, then we'll certainly commit to that. But that's just the way we like to do things. And again, if I had known about this, we would have met with her previously or prior to the meeting. But we respectfully ask for your approval tonight.
Motion closed from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Clendenin, would you mind reading item number 6? I believe it's you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Hurtak. Yeah, in the revision sheet. So I move ordinance REZ 2380, approved a plan development, PD non-residential rezoning with waivers. As the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code, and I find that the requested waivers do not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare. Oh, I guess I should have started there, shouldn't I have? So it is an ordinance being presented for first consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5025 and 5035 East Fowler Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification CG, commercial general, to PD, plan development, air-conditioned storage, and all CG uses, providing an effective date with the resolution for the bonus provision agreement and the revision sheet. In my findings, I find that the competent substantial evidence anticipates the density and the type of development within this mixed corridor, and it satisfies the policies for the corridors, including but not limited to promoting the development pattern that encourages walking and transit through the building design and pedestrian amenities as encouraged by land policies 4.3.9, 6.1.6, and 6.1.9, that the portion of East Fowler contains commercial uses. As such, the proposed rezoning will not alter the character of the surrounding area and is comparable and compatible with this portion of the Terrace Park neighborhood, consistent with land use policies 9.3.1 and 15.2.1. Further, I find that in accordance with Land Development Code sections 27.136, that the proposed development as shown on the site plan promotes or encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. Proposed uses promotes the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. And for the waivers, I find that its compliance with sections 27.139, subsection 4, such as the design of the proposed development is unique and therefore in need of waivers, and the requested waivers will not substantially interfere with or injure the rights of others whose property would be affected by the waivers.
We have a motion and a second from Councilmember Miranda being the second. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson, Vieira,
I'm going to vote no this time. I may change my vote on second reading. This is going to go forward, so I'm going to vote no right now, but I may change my vote on second reading. Thank you.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson, Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira voting no, Henderson, Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Item number 7.
Yes, Council, thank you. LaShawn Dock Development Coordination. Item number 7 is REZ 2386. This is for the property at 25 and 35 Columbia Drive and 1 Tampa General Circle. The applicant is represented by Truett Gardner. The request is to rezone the property from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development is to allow for hospital and medical office uses on site. So I'll turn it over to Planning Commission to give their report, and I'll come back and give my report.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, have been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District. Specifically, it's in the Davis Islands Urban Village. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. It's outlined as purple color. It's Tampa General Hospital. The southern portion, just south of the site, is predominantly residential uses. There are some non-residential uses along Davis Boulevard. Directly north of the site, this is the Convention Center. And then this is Bayshore, just to the northwest of the site. Here's an aerial, here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is currently recognized under the public, semi-public designation. There is some PSP land southeast of the site, and then south you have some CC 35, and then that transitions into residential 10 as you move south. Tampa General Hospital has been in its current location on Davis Islands since 1927, and it is an established piece of Tampa's community fabric. The building expansion is proposed on building end as labeled on the site plan, which is situated at the northeastern corner of the subject site. The northern portion of the subject site is the furthest away from residents on Davis Islands and interfaces with high-density residential development and the Tampa Convention Center to the north. The land directly across the channel from the proposed expansion is recognized under the Central Business District CBD future land use category, which also does not have a maximum density or intensity. The comprehensive plan encourages non-residential uses to remain sensitive and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed PD meets this policy direction and has demonstrated compatibility with the surrounding development pattern. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. LaShawn Dock Development Coordination. And for REZ 2386, this request, as mentioned earlier, is a request to rezone from PD, which currently allows for hospital and medical office uses, to PD to allow for those same uses. And as Danny has mentioned, this would allow for expansion of a portion of the actual site, and this is along the north. And I'll show you the site plan momentarily. The property itself contains over 24 acres. It's 24.24 acres. The proposed maximum height of the building proposed is 280 feet. The parking spaces that are required for the proposed use is 2,940 spaces, and 4,778 spaces are provided. I will put up this plan because this is easier just to see while we discuss it. So there have been prior rezoning approvals on the site overall for Tampa General. One was in 2004, and then the latest was in 2022. And that was REZ 2212. That rezoning allowed for the expansion of the area identified as Building O. In the staff report, that area is green, but on the Elmo, what I have here is I've identified this area highlighted in yellow. The request before you would allow for the expansion of this area that's highlighted in blue. And that amount is given within the staff report on page 3 of the report. So the current request seeks to remove the existing building that's at the north end of the campus. It's building identified as Building N, and relocate the existing helipad and construct a new 14-story, 565,000 square foot building. The building would contain 216 beds. It would support the ICU. There are 32 operating rooms as well as ancillary office uses proposed. The net increase for the campus would be 300,000 square feet. And this is the site plan which was submitted. I have photos to show you, but it's hard to get internal of the site, and especially on the northern side. So the pictures are from across the bay at Bay Shore, just looking at the hospital itself, and then a couple of pictures internal in the site. But as mentioned, these are the areas identified, and this is the area under this current rezoning request. This is the aerial map, the zoning map for the property. This is the property that's identified in red, Tampa General. Of course, this is the bridge to Davis Islands, and you can see the surrounding zoning around the site to the south, which is a mixture of the residential multifamily, the residential office, and then single-family zoning further south, east, southwest of the site. And I have pictures of the site just to show, and these are from Bay Shore Boulevard, so it's just showing you along the way. Pictures of the north end of the facility. And this is internal to the site. And this is the northwest side of the hospital, just showing. DRC staff has reviewed the request and finds the request consistent. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. And this concludes staff's presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Thank
Very
you.
much. Yes, ma'am. All right. Applicant? You came in late, sir. Were you sworn in or no?
We're not, we have the whole squad here
All right.
that should all get sworn
If you're
in.
going to speak on anything on the agenda, 7, 8, or 9, please stand and raise your right hand so we can swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Please proceed, sir. And let's get the presentation up on the, well, it's coming up. There we go. Go ahead.
There
sir.
we go.
Is this
Magic.
not that way? Sorry.
Good evening, Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive. I have the pleasure of being here on behalf of Tampa General Hospital. As I mentioned, we've got a large team from TGH tonight. One, because they value their relationship with the city, but then also this is a very important project for them. And LaShawn and Danny did a great job. I'll just highlight a couple of things and then turn it over to Kelly Cullen and then John Corus. But what this shows is, and on this, north is at the bottom, the two buildings that are in question here. On the far northern end is what LaShawn mentioned will be demolished, and the proposed building would go in this location if approved. And then secondly, the arrow to your right is the Bayshore Pavilion. LaShawn mentioned the rezoning in 2022, June of 2022. And next slide. There we got unanimous approval from City Council to build on top of the existing Bayshore Pavilion building. And that's where a lot of these additional beds and OR rooms were going to go. It was going to go to a maximum of 10 stories in height. They started looking into the construction of that, turned out not to be feasible from a structural standpoint and cost standpoint, and so really pivoted and looked for an opportunity to create an iconic building for Tampa. And so next slide, so then focused on this aged building on the northern end of the campus, and which is this the site of where this proposed building will go. And this is just a preview of it. It is up to 14 stories in approval. Looks like it's going to be more in line of 13. Again, 10 stories were approved at our last hearing in June of 2022. It's going to be a 565,000 square foot state-of-the-art medical building, and at, I think, at a very appropriate location on the north end, across from the turning basin of the convention center and then also the CBD. And we have unanimous findings of consistency from staff. The TGH team has done a great job of their outreach to both stakeholders on Davis Island and off of Davis Island, and believe we have their full support. And so with that, I'll turn things over to Kelly Cullen to talk about the need of this, and then to John Kors, the CEO of TGH.
Thank you.
Thank you, Truett. Kelly Cullen, Chief Operating Officer, Tampa General, address 1 Tampa General Circle. So I'm going to go through.
The right arrow.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I'm just going to go through a few slides to kind of explain the need for this expansion. So if you look at this first one, and this is nothing new to anybody in this room, but everybody knows that Tampa is a city that people are flocking to, and really we are seeing some unprecedented growth in this area, and this growth we do not expect to slow down anytime soon. Thank you. So this just goes and talks about our current bed needs. We started this master facility plan back in 2018 and have been working on it ever since. And as Truett said, we started with the Bayshore Pavilion expansion and then has shifted to the piece of property that we're talking about. So as you can see, what this slide is really demonstrating is that really in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, we will need an additional 200 to 250 beds. Our current bed count right now is 1,006 beds. And if you, just to give you a point of reference, as today, we have a census today of almost 1,100 patients at Tampa General Hospital. One of the focuses of this pavilion is our surgical tower. Whoops, back this way. We are a very surgically focused facility, so in this plan, it allows us, and what our projected needs is over 10 ORs. And as Truett had said, I'm going to skip to the next slide, is what this will really do is provide us with the bed count that we need. So we'll, at the end of it, we'll have 216 beds, both a combination of ICU and medical surgical beds to support our operating rooms. It allows us to co-locate 32 operating rooms together. In the old plan that Truett talked about on Bayshore, it was 12 ORs. We currently have 5 different operating sites in the hospital, and this one allows us to decommission some of our ORs and build 32 contiguous ORs. And then all of the essential space needed for that, so sterile processing to get ready for instrument use for the ORs. And then on the very top floor, a very nice education space for our internal customers and physicians and residents. As you guys know, we do a lot of teaching. So I'm happy to answer any questions on my part before I hand it over to John Porras, President and CEO.
Any questions? No, thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, please state your name.
My name is John Corris. I'm the President and CEO at Tampa General Hospital. So what I'd like to just spend a moment on is the building itself. It was very important to us as we sort of contemplated the building that it become an iconic fixture in the city, because this building faces the new convention center. The city has absolutely blossomed over the last decade, and so we spent a lot of time thinking through the design, and so that was very important to us. And you actually see a rendering of it here. You see the surgical suites that Kelly talked about, but you also see from Bayshore what this building is going to look like. So it was, as I said, it was really important to us that this fit in nicely into the city and was accretive and something that the city and the community could be very proud of, and I think the team has accomplished that. This is another look, and one of the things that we've really focused on is our green spaces throughout the campus, and you can see the green spaces here, and the river or the walk around the property, that will still be maintained. So people have access to the walk around the island, which we thought was very important to the residents and the community at large and our team members. This is just a bit of a closer look on what this will look like. It also, when it lights up at night, it's going to absolutely be gorgeous. And as we continue to grow and we continue to attract more conferences into the new center, this is going to be something very nice for people to look at. So not only the work inside, which quite frankly is the most important aspect of what we're doing here, is going to be world-class, but the building itself is really going to be designed nicely and fit into the city really perfectly. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have of me or my team.
Any questions or comments? Yes? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want to ask about resiliency. I know that building on the island and the hospital being there, you do a lot of protocols and special protection. What will this new building, how will it react to the possibilities of storm surge and the climate changes?
It's a great question. To answer it very directly and succinctly, it's a very resilient building. The facilities won't really, the clinical space and the operating space won't, it's being built about what, Dustin, 30 feet? 30 feet above sea level. I mean, so anything we build now on that island and on that campus, like our central energy plant, is 30 to 35 feet above sea level. So that's something we consider as one of the first things when we're looking at designing on our property.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Anybody? All right. Any further questions or comments? Need for rebuttal? No, nobody is registered.
Close.
Motion to close from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you. Item number 7, file number REZ 23-86, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 25 and 35 Columbia Drive and 1 Tampa General Circle in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD, plan development, to PD, plan development, hospital medical office, providing an effective date. I find the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. And I find that the requested waiver does not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare. I also find that it is compliant with applicable goals, objectives, and policies in the comprehensive plan, such as the proposed rezoning is consistent with the character of the surrounding area and furtherance of land use policies 1.1.1, 4.1.2, and 9.3.1. It is important to note that the proposed expansion is located at the northern portion of the site, which is located across from the convention center and away from the residences on Davis Island. I also find that it is compliant with land development code section 27-136. That the proposed development, as shown on the site plan, promotes or encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. This motion also includes the revisions shown on the revision sheet.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. Did you want to say something after the vote?
Yeah, I'll say it after the vote.
All right, me too. All right, roll call vote.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson, Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson, Hurtak,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Henderson, Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Councilmember Clendenin, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Tampa General and the care that I received there in the last couple of weeks. 2.5 weeks ago, I had kind of a little scary event, as you can see from my pirate patch here. And I was admitted to Tampa General, and I had a lovely view of the property that we were from my room of what we just were addressing. And John, with you sitting in the room and for your entire team, if you passed my regards, the quality of care and my entire experience there was phenomenal. I just got out on Saturday, so it's a recent thing. So thank you for the service that you provided me and the rest of the community. Thank you.
And I'd like to add, the President CEO said something that we can be proud of. Our community is very proud of this hospital, one of the top transplant hospitals in the country, recognized all over. I met a woman today who received a kidney and liver transplant, And she's, with assistance, she's up and walking and looks great. And she was just singing the praises of the hospital. So the reputation speaks for itself, and we're very lucky to have this institution here in our community. Sir?
Well, I guess I'll have to confess.
Yes.
That's also the hospital that I go to, and your Dr. B is one of my doctors. And in fact, I had just recently, I went to another hospital, I had a little nodule here, and they sent me back to Tampa General. And the doctor who did it was from Venezuela, a young lady named Dr. Carrera. And she did an outstanding job. You don't even know that I tried to get a hair transplant, but that didn't work. Clearly, I went for the nose. But thank you very much, all of you.
I don't know, where did you move the hair?
Time has its efforts of taking care of me.
All right. Yes, sir. Item number 8. Thank you.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 8 is REZ 2389, a request to rezone 2009 Gordon Street from RM16 to PD for single-family attached. The authorized agent is Ralph Schuler. I'll turn it over to Danny Collins now.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. Our next case in the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically it's in the Palmetto Beach neighborhood. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. It is on the south side of Gordon Street between South 20th Street and South 22nd. The surrounding area on Gordon Street is predominantly residential. West of South 20th Street, as you can see, are some heavy industrial uses. And also there are some non-residential uses that are not industrial on South 22nd Street. Here is an aerial map. Here's the adopted future land use map. Subject site and the surrounding properties are recognized under the transitional use 24 designation. That designation allows for a range of uses, anything from residential to some industrial uses. If you look along South 22nd Street, it's predominantly CMU 35 with some CC 35 on the east side of Gordon and South 22nd, and then over here west of South 20th Street is heavy industrial lands. The Planning Commission reviewed the surrounding area and found the request consistent with the overall development pattern in the surrounding area. The request is consistent with the density plan for under the TU-24 and is consistent with the policies that support infill development of vacant and underutilized lands. The request will provide additional housing opportunities in proximity to commercial services and amenities situated along South 22nd Street, which is consistent with land use policy 9.7.1. The entrances to the 5 single-family attached units are oriented towards Gordon Street. This design is consistent with LU policy 9.2.6. The request will promote a pedestrian-friendly environment with doors that connect to the neighborhood sidewalks and streets. Finally, the request is consistent with the plan's housing policies. The plan encourages new housing on vacant underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. And finally, the request would provide additional housing in the Palmetto Beach neighborhood consistent with housing policy 1.3.4. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you very much. Next. Yes, sir.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. We'll start out with our aerial map. As Danny noted, it is just east of South 20th Street on Gordon Street. You can see it outlined here in red. As said earlier by Danny too, as you're going west of South 20th Street, you have some heavy industrial uses associated with the port. In between South 20th Street and South 22nd Street, you have a mix of multifamily zoning, office zoning, and commercial zoning. And then along South 22nd Avenue, you do have some commercial general zoning along that road. As you move east of that, you get into a residential single-family 50 zoning district with predominantly single-family detached houses, but there are some multifamily houses attached in there. And this is an area that you've seen multiple rezonings in over the past few years. Here is the site plan provided by the applicant. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you all. So the applicant is proposing 5 single-family attached units. All units are oriented towards Gordon Street. Access to the site vehicularly is provided from the alley, so all the units will be rear-loaded. The max height of the building is proposed to be 3 stories or 34 feet and 6 inches. As Andy noted earlier, sidewalks are provided along Gordon Street so that there's direct pedestrian connections from the units to the sidewalk. 11 parking spaces are required and 11 are being provided. Additionally, there is a grand tree to the west of the site, and the applicant is providing the protective radius for the tree. And additionally, on top of that, the applicant is proposing 11 new trees abutting the right-of-way and in front of the buildings. I'll go ahead and show you some elevations provided by the applicant. These are the elevations. This is the south, where the garages are coming in from the alley. This is the north looking from Gordon. This is west.
Can you pull that down? We couldn't see the top.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even look and see that I didn't zoom back out. There you go. So there's your south off the alley with the garages, your north elevation looking from Gordon, and then your 2 side elevations from the east and the west. And I'll show you guys some pictures of the site now. So this would be looking east, so 20th Street would be back behind me towards the port. This is the subject property right here. So it starts from the wall and then goes down to the next wall there. This is looking from the vacant parcel along 20th Street to the east. This is the parcel right here. This is a view of the alley, so the parcel is right here. 20th Street would be back behind you. This is a view looking west towards the port and downtown. The subject site is right here. There's a more zoomed out version so you can see the subject site and the road going towards it. And there is a vacant lot here, and this is the tree that was noted earlier that's giving the protective radius. This is a view looking west from the alley. The subject site is right here. This is looking north, so the subject site would be directly behind me. This is looking north from the alley, so you can see the subject site here, and then the picture, the house of the picture that was just shown would be directly in front of that house. And this is looking south directly at the subject site. And then lastly, this is looking south from the alley. This is the vacant commercial lot. The applicant is requesting 2 waivers. Development coordination and compliance staff reviewed the application and find it consistent with the land development code. The surrounding uses of the proposed use of single-family attached is appropriate in location with the surrounding RM16 zoning in the immediate area. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve the waivers as identified in the report below and approve the application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second reading on the revision sheet. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Applicant?
Good evening, Ralph Schuler, 2401 North Howard Avenue, and I have been sworn. Staff has done a great job explaining our project. It's pretty straightforward. We actually came in about 3 or 4 months ago on another site on the same street, doing a similar project, another townhouse development. So we're just trying to kind of get on the coattails of that. Again, just to quickly review. We will improve this alley. All the parking will be either in the garages. Of course, this is in a FEMA flood zone, so really the first floor is all storage for vehicular and general storage, and then second and third floor would be for actual dwelling units. The only waiver we really have is for this visitor space. This little 3-foot wedge here is the only space that we're really requesting a waiver. Everything else complies. Again, we're, of course, staying away from that grand tree and providing a bunch of new trees. The site, the front elevation, again, trying to do kind of a little bit of an industrial motif, but in a residential character, kind of inspired by, we're next to the port and somewhat close to Ybor City. The only revision sheet is a couple little minor things. We're happy to address those for second reading. With that, I'll really conclude my presentation and take any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? No, thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 8? Anybody in the public wish to speak on item number 8? There is nobody registered.
Move to
We have
close.
a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Henderson.
Yes,
Would you mind reading item number 8?
absolutely.
Thank you.
I move file number REZ 2389, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2009 Gordon Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to PD planned development residential single family attached, providing an effective date.
Second.
Including the revision sheet.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, I want to, anytime we see development that follows what council is really trying to develop in this city, I always like to take a chance to say thank you. And when I was preparing for this meeting, we Ms. Wells and I talked about how Palmetto Beach just is really rocking it.
Yes.
When it comes to really solid development. No, I'm not trying to, yeah, I know, it's a secret, it's a wonderfully hidden gem. But overall, the developments that we're getting that are coming out of that area are really following those ideas of walkability and using alley access, and because of I think it's particularly interesting because of the creativity. You all are in such a flood zone area that we are having to think about how you handle the whole first floor, and I think that was a really inventive way. You don't see a lot of tandem garages, but in this case, it makes a lot of sense. Yes. And again, I just, whenever we see good development and creativity, well, I want to applaud that, so thank you.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to speak?
No, we've already closed the hearing. Yeah, but
Come back at second reading.
But I'll add that this is a hidden gem. Please, nobody watching TV listen to the hidden gem. And the other night I went out to DeSoto Park, and nice place to sit, very peaceful, and just, places that you don't realize are in Tampa until you discover them. You realize how special they are. We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson and second from Councilmember Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Henderson,
Yes.
Viera, Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson, Hurtak,
Yes.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kinley Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Last item of the night, 9. Item
Yes,
number 9.
thank you so much, Council. LaShawn Dock Development Coordination. Item 9 is REZ 2391. It's for the property located at 2040 West Platte Street. The applicant is being represented by Kelly Leona, and the request is to rezone the property from PD Plan Development for professional office to PD Plan Development to allow for restaurant use on site. So I turn it over to Planning Commission.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is within the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the South Howard neighborhood. It is shown here on our aerial map. It's at the southeast corner of West Platte Street and South Albany Avenue. There is a mix of residential uses and as well as some non-residential uses in the immediate vicinity of the subject site. Here's the adopted future land use map. The subject site, including parcels to the north, south, east, and west, are all recognized under the CMU 35 designation. That is the predominant designation found along Platte Street and South Howard Avenue. There are some residential 35 just to the south of the subject site, and then north of the CMU 35, north of West Platte Street, is land recognized under the residential 20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application, found the request consistent with several policies in the comprehensive plan. Restaurant uses can be considered under the CMU 35 designation, which is consistent with land use policy 8.14.2. The PD addresses the mixed-use centers and corridor policies by providing an entrance along West Platte Street and providing sidewalks along portions of the site adjacent to South Albany Avenue, adjacent to the site along, South Albany Avenue and West Platte Street. The request is also consistent with land use policy 4.4.6, which encourages vehicle access from the alley. Overall, the request is comparable and compatible with the surrounding area and is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the CMU 35 designation. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation.
Spam call, so I just answered.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council LaShawn, Doc Development Coordination. This PD request is for a restaurant use on site. So the existing structure on site contains 1,540 square feet, and that would remain. The lot itself contains 0.15 acres, or 6,353 square feet. The setbacks for the structure are to the north 12 feet, to the south 6 feet, to the west 23 feet, and to the east 46 feet. The proposed use requires 6 parking spaces and 4 parking spaces are provided. There is a waiver requested for that requirement. Just in the immediate area, just along West Platte Street, when you're looking from South Howard Avenue, the zoning is CG and the uses are commercial, consistent with the CG use. Southwest of the subject site, there was a PD approved in 2017. It was for residential multifamily, and RM16 zoning does exist to the south with residential uses. And along the southeast on South Melville and West Azile Street, there was the subject of a 2022 PD rezoning, which allows for residential single-family attached and detached uses. Directly north of the site is PD approval for commercial uses, a business professional office, and commercial off-street parking. So there's a mixture of uses within the area and recent rezonings which have occurred approving those uses. But staff felt it currently allows for business professional office, so that restaurant use will remain a commercial use on site and a neighborhood serving use for that location. And so this is the site plan submitted. So this is Platte Street. To the north, this is Albany Avenue, and this outline is the property boundary. So this is the building which is located on the site. Parking is proposed with access from the alley, and then these are the 4 parking spaces, surface spaces that would be provided. And I have pictures to show you of the site itself, but that is the only vehicular access to the site, is from the alley on the east. This is the aerial map and the zoning map of the site. This is the site which is outlined in red. This is Platte Street. Here, just to orient you, this is South Howard Avenue further west of the site. But you can see what I was talking about, the immediate uses, how there's a mixture of commercial, and then you have, as you head further south, residential uses, but predominantly commercial uses along that Platte Street, that portion of that corridor. So this is the site. This is the west end of the site. This is another view of the site. This is still looking on Platte. This is the east end of the site, so this is if you enter the site from the alley, and then the parking would be located here. This is a view of the alley, the entry to the site. The site is to the right in this picture. It's off the picture to the right. And this is just a view showing the alley access. This is east of the site. This is north of the site, across Platte. This is west of the site. This is across Albany. And this is south of the site, just swinging back around. And this is on the alley. This is south of the site. DRC staff reviewed the request and finds the request consistent. There are, it's inconsistent, I apologize, it's inconsistent. See the findings from transportation, and they're related to the transportation-related waiver, and that is the reduction of the parking spaces from 6 to 4. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you,
applicant,
counsel.
Thank you very much. All right, please come up and state your name.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. And I know we're the last people here, so I hope we can get through quickly. I'm just going to share a few words. So this is a very personal project. This property has been owned by the applicant's father for about 40 years. He purchased it in the 1980s, and he ran a successful graphic design business out of that building for many, many years. And his business has been winding down, and the applicant who's here today, right behind me, Max Sherrard, he has been, he's a chef, and he has worked in many restaurants throughout Tampa, including Burns and On Swan, and his dream is to have a restaurant of his own. He, in 2019, thankfully was able to purchase a kosher catering company, so he was doing that in the hopes that one day he would be able to have his own space. And that opportunity presented itself with this particular property, and his father, owning this building. So in terms of the application, we do understand that there are waivers requested in terms of the parking, which Ms. Dock mentioned. We did request a waiver from 6 to 4. However, there is, under the code in 27-283, there is an administrative variance of required parking spaces, which you can see that for existing buildings, and this is an existing site, so we're working with what we have. We're not changing the building. For existing buildings, construction prior to 1988, which this was built in 1927, so well before 1988, the applicant may request up to 50% reduction, which that would actually allow us to request 3 spots, and we're providing 4. In terms of the natural resources waiver that is being requested, Natural Resources has indicated that although this waiver is requested, we meet all of the VUA requirements, and considerations being given based on the fact that we're retaining all the trees on the property. At this time, we don't have any intention to change any of the green space on the property. And in terms of the code, this application meets all the requirements. It's pedestrian oriented. We're creating an entrance on Platte, which is hopefully gonna make people, walk on Platte, which there was a bike lane put in a few years ago, which you can see is actually right in front of the subject site in this bike lane here. There's also 5 parking spaces right in front of the building as well, to hopefully accommodate some of the parking that we may not have. And the city, and we agree, this is very consistent with the neighborhood. If you've ever driven along Platte, which I know most of you probably, hopefully maybe some of you have, it is majorly commercial. There are about, between Platte, Howard and Rome, there are 13 commercial businesses, several restaurants on that street alone. And there's 13 actual parking spots within about a 3-block radius from this particular building. This is consistent with the Chapter 2736. It meets the general intent as outlined in the report. It meets the objectives, goals, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and as the city said, it is consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and hopefully we'll be able to bring really good food and bagels to Tampa. So I don't have anything further. The engineer on the project is graciously here tonight if you guys have any technical questions that I may not be able to answer. And I'll just pass it over to Max, the applicant, just to give you guys a few words, and then we'll be done. Thank you.
got us at bagels.
I said, now I have
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is a bagel shop. I didn't know. It is going to be a bagel shop, and that was a big part of this situation. His kosher catering company, unfortunately shut down. He had to shut down during COVID, and he found success actually delivering bagels to many homes, and he was in the Tampa Bay Times. I think there were some big influencers that posted about his bagels, and he's just needed a space in order to operate the bagel shop in a sustainable manner.
Councilmember, just keep in mind, we have to look at the evidence
Yes.
presented and not,
Tell that to my stomach.
not the love for bagels, so. Your name for the record?
Kelly Yona.
And, sir, please, state your name.
Max Sherrard, I'm the applicant, the intended rezoning use for it. I own Nosh Caterers. I bought it in 2019. We had big, setback and change with COVID. We had every single one of our events for a brand new catering company cancel, and we started making fresh bagels for all of our events, and we had a bunch of dough that was basically ready to go, and we started selling it through Instagram, and it turned into a very vital business. We employed several of my friends that were furloughed through their current positions during COVID. Ryan Carroll is here. He also helped make all of these bagels. We started selling 3,000 bagels every 4 days during COVID, generated over $100,000 in revenue selling bagels and cream cheese through Instagram. My father has owned this property for almost 40 years. I've been going there, grew up there. He provided for me to go to school and for our family, and I just want to be able to do the same in the same property and keep it in the family.
You did $100,000 in bagels in how many days?
In 10 months.
10 months. I'm in the wrong business.
And I would have brought some bagels for you guys if it wasn't considered bribery.
No, we're fair and impartial. No bagel influence. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I was just thinking in my mind, I said, how can 4 spots maintain a restaurant? And now I know why. You don't have a sit-down.
So the current site plan is proposed to have 10 seats, and we're gonna sell bagels and coffee. Have proposed hours of 7 to 2 p.m.
No liquor, right?
We are proposing for beer and wine, and what that would be used for is to do our special event dinners.
Well, that's not
That has nothing to do with this case.
Then I didn't say anything then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I asked.
I didn't hear anything. All right.
I mean, when you said bagels, I said, I know a sit-down restaurant, I said, the man's gonna starve. You won't have enough turnover.
No, you have the.
Well, now with the bagels you do, not with a sit-down restaurant, because you can't tell, hey, you ate, get out. Not that I know the restaurant business, but thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else, sir?
That's it, thank you.
Anybody in the public wish to speak on item number 9? Anybody? We have nobody registered, so we have motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda?
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 9, REZ 23-91. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 2040 West Platte Street in City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning districts classification PD, plan development, the PD, plan development restaurant, providing an effective date. The applicant has met all the requirements, the waivers designed for the purpose. Development is unique and therefore in need of waivers. The requested waivers would not substantially interfere or injure the rights of others whose property would be affected by the waiver. And although a waiver is requested from the 8-foot BUA landscaping buffer, the applicant meets and exceeds the overall AUA requirements, and all trees will be retained and is consistent with policy 8.14.1, 8.14.2, and he meets the proposed development shown in the site plan, promotes and encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood.
Are you going to be open on Sunday? Wait, we have a motion from
Yes.
Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson, Hurtak,
Yes.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Was there a revision sheet included in that motion? Councilmember Miranda? Yes.
okay. Motion carried with Carlson being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
That's it. Yep. Congratulations, almost. All right, we got our new business, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just want to say that if we are starting to have a collection of bagel places, which I'm a huge bagel fan. So because of that, I'm just going to put out into the universe some rosemary baguettes and almond croissants. I'm just going to throw that out there if anybody wants to start making those.
Not that you're particular.
No, not at all. But more French bakeries, please.
And if you haven't considered keto bagels, keto bagels. That's
We have
what I
a lot
do.
of requests, gluten-free too, but.
Yeah. That's all. I just wanted to put my request for pastry out into the world.
Yeah,
Any new business, ma'am?
Chair. You know,
That was my new business. I want more French
Councilwoman
pastry.
Henderson.
yeah, I just want to piggyback and say, as an entrepreneurship teacher, your story is amazing. And I need your contact information, of course, to share with my entrepreneurship students. So, would love to have you come share your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got us in a good mood tonight.
Mhm.
Good mood tonight.
That's the way you close.
That's right.
Things
Councilwoman
come to
Clendenin.
those who wait.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you have to change your last name. You can no longer be a Maniscalco with such poor taste in food. Keto bagels. You're ashamed to the boot of Italy.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
We're going to Olive Garden.
A shame.
What's the name
Shame.
of the bagel shop?
We're working on that.
Okay.
We're operating as Nosh Caterers right now, and
You'll
I
get
love the
there.
name Nosh, and I don't know if we're going to continue that with the bagel shop, but it'll be TBD.
We'll know where to find you.
Well, you're not far from where I
Fly
almost,
Albany.
if I was in better shape, I could walk there, so you'll definitely see me there.
Yes,
I have two motions. I request by the Planning Commission setting an adoption hearing for TACPA 23-20 and TACPA 2321 on February 22nd, 2024 at 5:01 PM, and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with a form of notice for advertising the public hearings.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, sir.
And motion two is I have a motion for the city planning staff to report on the final proposed text amendments to the Land Development Code for the July 2023 cycle at the November 30th workshop.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Question?
Yes.
November 30, is that November 30th workshop, like the end of this month?
You got the date right, because that's a,
That's what it says.
And that's for the, again, the,
Yeah.
future- okay,
yeah, it's good.
okay.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anything else, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it for me, sir. That's
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
bagel.
Very good. Councilmember Vieira?
Yeah, I have a request. Next week, we're having Judge E.J. Salsinas for his 60th anniversary in the Florida Bar. May we-
Granted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, may we have that at 1:30 PM because of his schedule?
This
next
is
week.
next Thursday, sir, the 16th. When
Yes.
we come back from lunch, we'll go right to Judge Salcedo.
Thank you very much, and I don't think that's really a motion or whatever. I did want to talk about, and this is unorthodox, and I don't think this is a big deal, which is Councilwoman Henderson last week had brought up a number of issues with Ybor City, and something that I keep on hearing from people about that I really think the public wants us to at least, how shall I say it, schedule to talk about this, to put this on, is for the youth curfew of Ybor City and this is what, and Councilwoman, this is very unorthodox because I can't talk to you outside of this, right? Which is to talk about, have that coming back, to talk about legal sufficiency. I know Ms. Zellman has talked about an ordinance, and then also to hear from police officers, because there have been concerns about saying, listen, are cops going to be spending a lot of their time on this? What's the cost benefit, the negative, the positive, et cetera? So at least to have that on the agenda to come back to us. Again, Councilwoman, since you brought that issue up, I don't want to make the motion, but all I'm saying is I'd second the motion if you make that. That's it.
If I may, I
Yes,
believe
please.
staff is scheduled to come back to council on December 7th
Yes.
already to look at options.
Dr. Chief for
They are for the youth curfew?
All options with regard to
I did
Ybor
not
City.
know that.
Yeah, that's why that's why I didn't make it, because.
Okay, so that will include then the youth curfew,
Yeah.
all options.
All encompassing.
Okay, so then take off my, so then I hereby withdraw my very strange comment, disregard, okay?
Anything else, sir?
Yeah.
No?
It kind of opened the door to leading to it, and.
May I have a motion to receive and file?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilwoman Henderson, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
You better race to that ice cream.
No, it's gonna close at 9 o'clock.